Some players today have been here before. Some players making their first trip to the Final Four. This is the semifinals of the Clash Royale League West 2020 Spring Split. Hello and welcome. Joining me as always, my friend, 4 teams that are absolute. Some teams like SK Gaming look Western Championship go back to back. No individual player has ever won a Western, North American, EU, Latin American, whatever you want to call it, a west side of the world CRL championship twice in their career. A lot of teams looking to take one closer step today. Andrew, we have such crazy stacked lineups. Everyone's so excited. I cannot wait to jump into the action.
Yeah, man, I can't agree more. We're here for the semifinals. 4 teams left, the 4 best teams here in CRL West, and we've seen Tribe Gaming go undefeated on the season. We're looking to see today if someone can actually stop them. Are they going to be the 2007 Patriots, Rich? I think you and I were talking about this earlier. Or are they the 72 Dolphins? Are they going to be perfect? Are they going to go all the way through? Are they going to win the Super Bowl? Who knows? But Spacestation Gaming is going to find out today. And on the other side of it, SK Gaming, who's upsetting who? Are they upsetting Misfits? Is Misfits upsetting them? We'll find out here on YouTube. Make sure those notifications are turned on and you are subscribed. You can also follow along with us on Twitter at Esports Royale EN. You can follow me at Andrew Guy. You can follow him at Rich Slayton. There's all the best, most up-to-date Clash Royale news. There's polls that go up every single match day. I hope you voted. I wonder what your votes were. Well, we'll see them. We'll see them in just a minute. And lastly, Fantasy Royale was huge yesterday. It was absolutely massive for anyone and everyone that had Morton on their roster, which I know Rich and I both did, bringing in 7 crowns to get you so much closer to those 1,000 gems at the end of the season. To let you guys know, we still do have 1 more week of trading and dropping and all that good stuff, so lineups had to be set already yesterday morning, but you can trade again on Tuesday for our finals next Saturday.
It's going to be a fun one, Andrew. We have 2 more days left of CRL West in 2020. Today, our semifinals, 2 great matches, and then, of course, the winners today go on to our finals next weekend, Saturday, July 18th, and that's still going to be 10 a.m. in the West, 1 p.m. in the East, 7 p.m. Central European summertime, so make sure you're hitting those notifications and don't miss a moment on the way here all the way to the end. Andrew, let's take a look at the bracket, see what's got us here from yesterday to today. And yesterday we started off with 2 really close matches, 2 barn burners, if you will. It was Spacestation Gaming taking out Team Liquid, and now they go up against, as my co-host said, the undefeated, hasn't dropped a set Tribe Gaming. On the other side, SK and Cream Royale Betis went down to Game 5 of the 5th and final set. Reverse sweep, 7-0 Morton. That guy, if there's an S tier, what's above that? And how does Misfits contend with a guy who's playing the way he is?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. We'll find out in our second matchup. But if you look at the left side of your screen, you'll see that our playoff format is a BO5. That's right. We're still going to start with the 2v2. All the sets themselves are BO3s, but the match itself is a BO5. So we're going to go 2v2, 1v1, 1v1, then, if necessary, the last 1v1 set, and then King of the Hill if we're still tied up there. And I think one of the most exciting things today, Rich, is about these squads. We haven't seen a lot of certain people. Buffmac in the 1v1, who is a guy that was celebrated as maybe one of the best 1v1 players, head-to-head players in all of CRL last year, has been stuck in 2v2. TNT hasn't played yet. We've seen Wings only a couple times, but he's 4-0 and King of the Hill. You know, there's a lot of guys out there who I want to see just a little bit more of, and that's why I'm so excited about our playoff format.
I think that's the big thing people are waiting for in this first match of the day, the Tribe Gaming, Spacestation Gaming. Everyone knows how good TNT is, but with the 2v2 work of Azelius and Buffmac, and then Jupiter King being cracked, they haven't needed him. They haven't used one of their great offseason pickups. I mean, this is a brand new Tribe Gaming. This is the first season with this squad, and they went all out, and we still haven't seen a player who was one of the best over in the East, who's now here in the West, and I know I personally am so pumped to see him in the 1v1s.
Yeah, so let's talk unstoppable, undefeated roster. Azelius and Buffmac will be in that 2v2 once again. I can't imagine they would switch that up. Jupiter King will be in one of the 1v1 sets, as I would assume would TNT. Maybe Buffmac falls into that third spot. We'll find out and see, but I'm excited to see the debut of TNT, and I'm really, really curious to see how Buffmac and Azelis fare against the SSG duo in AC and RF. And one other thing I noticed yesterday, Rich, was it's bait all the way across the board, 2v2 and head-to-head. I'm wondering if we'll see more of that today, because we know that SSG does love a little bit of bait.
Yeah, they've played a little bit. Of course, the Graveyard duo as well. Let's look at the Spacestation Gaming lineup. AC and RF, one of the longest standing 2v2 duos, the most played 2v2 duo in all of CRL West. They've played more games together than anybody else. Lapacati, the not just rookie of the season in spring 2019, but the best win rate of the regular season in 2019. And then Samuel, the ladder standout, 30-plus top 10 finishes in his ladder career. This is an unbelievably stacked roster that can do it both in 2v2 and in the head-to-head play. I love this matchup, Andrew. I think these two teams are very, very even, and this is one of those games where you're like, there's no way to pick who comes out on top at the end of the game.
Totally. It is a complete coin toss. So let's go into the 2v2 here. Tribe Gaming coming out with Azelis and Buffmac. Spacestation Gaming rocking AC and RF. That's Crap and the God RF for you guys that might be just joining us for the very first time here in playoffs. And look at that, bottom of your screen. Tornado, no surprise there. Goblin Barrel, also not surprised, but happy to see it in the bans. We were talking about bait just a second ago. It dominated 2v2. It's been showing up so much in 1v1. Get it out of play, get that 2v2 just a little bit more manageable, and the best way to do that is to take out the Goblin Barrel to completely eliminate that double bait.
Let's go ahead and jump into the 2v2. You see AC and RF top of your screen for Space Station, Azelis and Buffmac at the bottom, and this is one of the most stacked 2v2 matches you can get, Andrew. Crap and the God RF are the two winningest players in 2v2 history. They have more wins at 54 apiece in 2v2 than any other player. And across from them in Azelis, you have the best win rate in 2v2 for CRL Western players. 74% win rate across 38 games in his career.
Yeah, you know, and you're taking a look there at their entire careers. If you look at just this season, Azelis and Buff are 8-2 in games. They have not lost a set, and if anyone can contend with them, it is going to be Crap and the God RF.
You know, Andrew, looking at these bans, Tornado, pretty common. Goblin Barrel, nowhere near as common. But one thing we're going to see a whole lot of, or two things we'll see a lot of, obviously, at that point, are the Giant Skeleton we just saw in the bottom left, and a bunch of Minor, I suspect. So you take a look at the deck that AC and RF are running. They're not running Goblin Barrel, but they are running Minor Skelly Barrel, and then this Giant Skeleton Lumberjack Hog Rider combo from Tribe.
Look at that. Hog Rider squeezes right on through. SSG maybe spent a little bit too much on the offensive with that rocket, taking the Lumberjack off the board and doing a good amount of damage to that Giant Skeleton. They got that high Inferno Tower, but the Hog was just pushed to the side by that big body of the Giant Skelly to get on tower and get that massive amount of damage in.
Midi P.E.K.K.A not going to connect, courtesy of the bats. No small spell to take those off, or at least if they have it, choosing not to use it yet is Space Station Gaming. Minute 15 left in regulation, and so far it's about a 400 hit point lead on the left-hand lane from Tribe.
What I think is pretty fascinating here about the deck selection from Space Station Gaming is that they did go with of under bait as opposed to just straight up loggable in their swerve towards their opponents.
Pulled from back of the Fisherman, and now a potential counter push. I mean, if Tribe Gaming, Lumberjack in front rider might be enough to...
Fireball misses.
Hand side, things are very close, and for those of you listening, if you're hearing some audio challenges, we are taking a couple big hits on the internet, so we're going to solve that one the best that we can, but bear with us if you hear Andrew and I talking over
Rich, can you hear me?
I think so. Are you okay? Are you alive?
I don't know where I am right now. All right, so 858 to 872. Somehow SSG brings themselves right back into it. That poison's going to come down with a very aggressive Hog Rider sent in. Nothing there to catch it, though.
And the freeze gets it done. Azelis and Buffmac win game number one, sitting back on that freeze for a long time and pulling it out at a moment where they knew AC and RF had no answers.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those moments where you recognize someone just completely picking apart your cycle and your elixir, and it was right there you saw they go, you know what, we can go aggressive Hog Rider at the river coupled with the freeze, and we can take this W. And we've all been there when you have 0 elixir and someone drops a Hog Rider right at the river. Nothing you can do other than just watch it swing away on your tower.
So here you go, taking a look at the stats from the post-game, and you can see a lot of building option, a lot of building play, at least 3 times at the Inferno Tower, but not able to hold off on the Hog Rider in the long run. You know, Inferno Tower, maybe not able to get there every single time, and then, you know, you have the Mega Knight, you have the Fisherman, but that combination of Giant Skeleton, Lumberjack, Hog Rider is so good at breaking through all of those pieces.
Yeah, because you want to kind of drop everything right up front, right? But you can't do that because the Fisherman's pulling things away. You've got to worry about the Giant Skeleton bomb. So what seemed like a very, very easy defense with the cards you talk about, even the Royal Recruit to push things back, the Mega Knight, the Inferno Tower, the Mini P.E.K.K.A. to get on, the Log, all of those things help with the Hog. But Azilius and Buffmac just kept putting together excellently layered pushes that would break on through, or they would really pick apart maybe slight mistakes made by Crap and God RF, even if it was just elixir-wise. Again, at the end there, that wasn't a mistake that the Hog Rider came down. That was calculated.
Yeah, you saw how low on Elixir AC and RF were there in the final moments, having to spend so much to defend against that first round of push, and then that's sort of how people talk a lot. We've talked a bit about this in the past, but why do you run the same win condition twice in one of those in a 2v2 deck? And one of those big reasons is your opponents spend so many things, all their necessary pieces to defend that first time. It's unlikely they have all those pieces in cycle in both hands to defend that second version of it. Usually the defensive cards are more diverse than the offensive cards in terms of how these decks are built. So you drop the first Hog Rider, Giant Skeleton, Lumberjack push, they spend what they need, what they have for it, and then boom, drop the second one that's out of cycle. GG, well played. Tribe Gaming up 1.
Yeah, and I wonder if a little bit of this loss in Game 1 can kind of be accredited to that rocket early on. Now, I like it. It took the Lumberjack off the board, got damage on the tower, brought that Giant Skeleton down to about 2/3 HP. Then the Inferno Tower was played high. The Hog Rider kind of squeezed around, and I'm wondering if they needed just a little bit more elixir to recover from that small mistake, because that mistake of the Hog Rider getting on tower then made it almost felt like they were playing from behind for the rest of game number 1. So let's hop into game 2 and see if AC and RF can maybe hold their footing a little bit better defensively.
And Azilius continues to add to that crazy record, and another win, his 29th win overall in 2v2. You got to wonder maybe what it would have been like to see this guy more in 2v2 in CRL EU back 2 years ago.
I could not agree more. I was just going to say, back then Azilius was a head-to-head guy solely, and to think of him as a 2v2 star it's kind of laughable at the time, but now you look ahead in the future and you wonder if Team Queso maybe missed a really big opportunity.
Here you go, P.E.K.K.A. crossing the bridge. Fisherman will pull it across. Bye-bye, Fisherman. Will the P.E.K.K.A. be able to get to the Musketeer? No. The Bat's able to DPS it off the board. So, good early defense in the first minute by Spacestation Game.
Yeah, nice interactions there by AC and RF, going with what looks like the exact same deck they rocked in the previous game.
And a very similar look coming from Tribe Gaming this time out as well.
A little bit of
Fisherman has been pretty dominant. Messina all over the place.
Yeah.
In the last day and today. And, Andrew, one thing we saw when Fisherman became so popular back in 2019 was a rise of recruits, specifically in the 2v2 set.
I know. I was just going to say, I'm wondering if we'll start to see Royal Recruits once again, because the Fisherman is so dominant. He's such a nuisance. And, one of the things that I love to focus on with the Fisherman is it's not always just about him pulling units to, into tower range or into a big DPS unit. It's also about making your opponent's orchestrated pushes kind of off kilter, right? You pull that tank up a little bit farther than they'd like. Their DPS units are too far behind to support, and you really kind of mess up the sequence they were trying to put together, and that's one of my favorite things about the Fisherman.
A lot of experience overall between these 4 players. Akrat began his competitive career back in 2016 in RPL Americas 2. But all these guys have been here for a long time. RF started in 2017, also in the RPL. Azilius, of course, there was if you watch competitive Clash Royale in 2017, if Surgical Goblin didn't win it, it was the Frenchman. So a lot of experience here. Oddly enough, the least experienced competitively here might be the guy who was the biggest off-season free agent signing of the season, and that being Buffmac.
Yeah, I mean, it really felt like Buffmac, if you looked at his kind of journey, his evolution through CRL, last season was really his kind of breakout year. It was the year that everyone talked about, or the season that everyone talked about him as top tier, S tier, best in the world, and that's why you know that acquisition was so massive.
Fireball in on the left-hand side, Musketeer gone. Rockets begin to cycle from Space Station on the right-hand side, 846. Double Miner and Skeleton Barrel on the left-hand side. A significant chunk of damage coming in from Tribe Gaming on the left.
Yeah, they didn't have any spells to pick it up. They had to triple drop units there. A Mini P.E.K.K.A., a Fisherman, and a Royal Delivery on the back end. Skelly Barrel comes down with the poison. SSG in a lot of trouble to get O2'd in this set.
Miner in the back. Poison now going to put this thing. The Bats put that left-hand tower in Fireball range.
159, where's the rocket?
The Fireball?
Yes, it does.
Oh my word! 159. So unbelievably close. Tribe not able to get back to that big spell in time. AC and RF steal that one by a hand.
The time's ticking down. You see that 4 seconds come on. Rockets in the air. You can't quite get to your Fireball. The log comes in. And this is exactly what you expect out of this 2v2 matchup.
Yeah, that's what you love to see. A good back-and-forth battle, and you see the slight differences here in how they constructed the deck. I mean, these are two very similar looks. Both sides going with the Miner Skeleton Barrel, but still with the Inferno Tower, the Rocket, and the Fisherman on the Space Station side. Double big spell with the Fireball and the Poison, but also having no building in there to contend with the big tanky troops.
Yeah, speaking of big tanky troops, I am curious to see if we'll still see P.E.K.K.A. as much as we have been with the increase in the Fisherman. Maybe that turns to Royal Recruits. It just seems like she is going to be much more easily manageable than she has been in the last previous metas, maybe the last 2 or 3.
Let's take a look at the replay. And yes, they did have the Goblin Cage in there. Missed that one for a moment. And you see the Fireball being spent on defense. There you have it, the Fireball being spent on defense to keep those skeletons off. And, you know, it's hard to make that call in that moment. You want to keep the tower up, and you're hoping that maybe the Goblin Barrel push, or not the Goblin Barrel push, but the Goblins and the Log and the Skeleton Barrel can get it done on the left-hand side while you keep your tower alive. But you also got to wonder if that Fireball, could it beat it out and find some other way to keep that right-hand tower alive?
I mean, running two very similar decks, you think if you go to a 2-tower game, it's basically 0-0 again. That was one of those moments yesterday. We talk about guaranteed plays. That tower would have went down with the Fireball. Those skeletons maybe or maybe not would have been taken off the map with the Fireball. Just a small mental mistake. We all make them, but it is really, really frustrating for Tribe, I'm sure, when they see that they could have at least taken that game to overtime and then maybe 2-0'd the set. The last thing you want to do is give a little bit of confidence to AC and RF in the 2v2.
Yeah, so now we have a game number 3, and we have a lot more Clash Royale left to be played. Of course, it's a best-of-5 set, so we have at least 2 1v1 sets. More than likely, we're going to go at least to set number 4 in this matchup. I'd be surprised if this was a 3-0 either direction, but of course, this opening 2v2 set gives a big advantage whoever takes it.
Yeah, and you know, that advantage, I think we always talk about just the 2v2 advantage in general for confidence, but I think it's so much more important today, not because of who's on either side of the 2v2s, not because of what's going to happen in the 1v1s or King of the Hill, but just to show that Tribe can be beaten. Just to show that you can actually take a set away from them. Just to throw off the rhythm of Zillies and Buff. Maybe make Jupiter feel just a little bit of pressure. Something like that, just to throw off this perfect rhythm that Tribe has been in all season. And that's why the 2v2 feels so important for Space Station.
Well, it's only the 3rd game that Tribe has given away all season. So that's got to feel good for Space Station at least. And Space Station, look, AC and RF, like we've said, are the winningest duo in 2v2 history. They recently surpassed Razor. Of course, Razor could add some big numbers later today. Let's go ahead and jump into game number 3, the deciding game of our opening set. Reminder, the bans here, Tornado and Goblin Barrel, has not stopped us from seeing a fast and baity sort of meta out of these two teams.
Still seeing a ton of Skeleton Barrel here on 2v2, and I think a lot of it is just what it demands out of you. You either have to deal with the bomb drop, or you have to spend elixir early to make sure, or excuse me, the barrel drop. You have to spend elixir early to make sure it doesn't fall on your tower, or, of course, obviously, you got to deal with the skeletons when they come out of that barrel. So, very, very strong card in 2v2. I
was going to say we haven't seen a lot of really heavy deck play from these two today, and the moment I get ready to say that one, take a look at this. Lava Hound versus Graveyard. So both teams
Wow.
run a slightly bigger, beefier
That
decks.
was a big-time lightning there, Rich. Baby Dragon now taking for everything. Heal Spirit's going to come in. They play a high Heal Spirit themselves to make sure it doesn't heal up all those pups and the Baby Dragon, but a very, very nice first big blow from Tribe.
You don't see a ton of lightning in 2v2, Andrew, and a lot of that is because you get so many troops built up, targeting just 3 of them rather than targeting 7 or 8, however many might be built up at the bridge battle. Seems like a bit of a loss, but you take a look at how many targets there are for a lightning in the deck being run by AC and RF, and you gotta wonder if this was a calculated choice from Azilius and Buffmac.
And if you think back to, when you and I were in 2018 and still kind of getting our footing, a lot of pros were talking to us about how lightning is just such an offensive spell, right? It's very, very rarely used effectively on defense. If you lightning on defense, a lot of times you either have to take every unit off the board or it's a last-ditch effort. So to see it here in 2v2 again, it's just kind of a fun thing to think about. It's a very offensive spell that is very expensive.
Fisherman pulling that P.E.K.K.A into the middle, and those Skeleton Dragons should be enough to deal with it. Not much damage in. Poison easily cleans up that Graveyard. So here we go, double Elixir time, and ahead by about 50% right now is Tribe
Just
Gaming.
a lot of splash damage. They've got the poison obviously to deal with the Graveyard, but then of course they've got the Skeleton Dragons and 2 Baby Dragons there to also help out, along with of course the lightning coming.
And they also have arrows, which if poison is out of cycle, those arrows can do a fine job of cleaning up a lot of that Graveyard in the later stages.
Yeah, and the big thing, the reason that I mentioned lightning right there is because lightning is a great card to stop those tanks from getting across the river.
Lava Hounds in both lanes right now. Poison to get rid of the Skelly Dragons behind the Lava Hound on the left-hand side, but a significant push being tanked for on the right-hand side as well. Right now, it's all Tribe Gaming in the final 10 seconds.
Yeah, it feels like Tribe is definitely going to take the set. Miner is on the tower. The pups aren't going to take it, but that Baby Dragon does need a response on the left-hand side. However, right-hand side down to 347 as well. Lightning in. Tribe stays perfect.
There are no questions right now, Andrew, about Tribe Gaming's 2v2, and a lot of people were kind of saying about Azilius and Buffmac that maybe their 2v2 was overrated, maybe they were just getting good matchups, this and that. There was a lot of light shade being thrown towards their direction, despite their record this season. But what they just did against AC and RF, this was a gritty win with really, really good choices. You have to give credit to both their analysis and to the play of Azilius and Buff.
Yeah, I'm wondering now if this deck is kind of built around Graveyard, be able to go to the skies, but still have enough responses on the ground, enough splash troops plus the poison to clean up those skeletons piling up. You saw the Lava Hound in the beginning on the first push on the left-hand side. AC and RF went aggressive with the Graveyard on the right. But let's talk about this final moment here. Once again, Fisherman played right here at the end. It echoes what happened at the very beginning of the match with the Graveyard Dark Prince push on the right. The Fisherman plus the poison was kind of the story of the day. No charge, no skellies, easy money for Tribes, Azilius, and Buffmac in a set that they've only lost 3 games in all season long.
Yeah, it's so impressive. And again, this is how great Azilius' record is in 2v2. He won 2-1 today, and that reduces his career win rate in 2v2. Because he came in today 74% and a 2-1 win. Well, that's only 66, repeating 6-6-6-6-6 forever. So, that's absolutely wild how they've played. And I'm really curious. I don't have the numbers anywhere. I'm curious how often Lightning has been played in 2v2. In my memory, it's exceptionally rare.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've seen it a handful of times. There was maybe one meta in maybe the previous season in the spring where we saw it a lot more. But for the most part, I feel like it's been a very, very lightly used card. But today it was used brilliantly by Azilius and Buff. And now to kind of move forward into the 1v1 set, one person I really want to focus on, obviously, Tribes, TNT, Jupiter, and Buffmac, that goes really without saying. That really feels like it's going to be the 3. But yesterday, Samuel Basoto came out and put Igor to work. He put him to bed. He 2-1'd him in the first set against Liquid, and that was a really, really important moment for Spacestation.
Yeah, it was obviously gave them a nice cushion on the front end, but also finally give us a realization of on the promise of Samuel. right? This is a guy who Trainer Luis picked up, and Luis loves picking up ladder players specifically. A guy who Luis picked up off that Fnatic roster, who, after he didn't have a great season, but Luis believes that a great ladder player can become a great competitive player. Doesn't always translate, but he sees the tools are there. And he's been very excited about having Samuel on this squad ever since before the signing was public, when it was still privately, hey man, we're going to get Sam and it's going to be great. And it's good to see him finally sort of realizing the promise that Luis put on for Spacestation when he signed this.
Well,
game.
I think the thing that Luis told us when he was talking about these ladder players is, what's the one thing you have to do if you want to be top ladder? You have to grind for days, not hours, literally days, every single season. And as the meta changes, and if you continue to be a top ladder player, speaking of two very high top ladder players here in Sam and TNT, I just forgot my thought because we're going to go into this 1v1, and I'm so excited to see the debut of this Tribe player.
It's finally TNT in CRL West. Took you long enough, buddy.
We are here, and TNT and Samuel are playing against each other in this 1v1 set. Tribe up in the 2v2.
And TNT looking like Expo here, so this will be interesting to see double bait versus Expo in your debut as a CRL Western player. Excited to see what TNT can do with this against this young ladder standout.
Yeah, agreed. And I guess now to wrap around on that thought about Sam was that, you know, if you are continually at the top of ladder every season, that means you adjust to metas, and that means you work really, really hard. I think everything else there, you can be shaped by a great coach, and that's the idea of Luis picking up these top ladder players in Lapo and Basoto.
And here we go. First Expo down from TNT. Skeletons to pick it up, and Inferno Tower to finally control that Expo for a while. Fireball should be enough to make room for that lock to get through, and it does.
And look at that. Ice Spirit comes in. A brilliant Ice Spirit. That is a massive, massive lock, Rich.
That's going to be a whole lot of damage. Tower down to 1345, and now the big question is going to be, how many more Expos does TNT go for offensively versus control and getting those fireball logs on tower on the left-hand side?
Yeah, I mean, Sam is already in a really, really big spot of trouble here. TNT did a great job with that fireball on top of the Inferno Tower. An aggressive fireball, but he also knows what deck he's playing against, and he knows if he fireballs there, what does he have to deal with? Most likely the Skelly Barrel, and he was ready for it. And look at that, now ready for the Inferno Tower. TNT playing in the future, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, you had to imagine the Inferno Tower high was going to be the move against the Expo. TNT playing it nicely and making his opponent Samuel spend a lot at the bridge to stop that Expo.
Yeah, and there you go. Great Skeletons up high after the Dark Goblin locks onto the Tesla. Tesla pops the Skelly Barrel. TNT making a great showing here in his debut.
The Tesla and buildings overall can pretty easily deal with the Skeleton Barrel. The Log can deal with the Goblin Barrel. This deck cycles around very, very quickly. It's going to be a challenging out for Samuel to try to get back in this one.
I mean, he's only a few hundred HP behind, but it also feels almost as if TNT is toying with him, just kind of letting him slowly fall behind elixir-wise, interaction-wise, and then all of a sudden an Expo is going to come down and Samuel's going to have no response. And maybe that's right now, Rich.
Yeah, well, TNT does have a lot on the board right now. Log does it, gets the lock. Great deck selection here from TNT. A pretty solid matchup, Expo versus Bait, and that's going to be GG well played in game number 1. Welcome to the West, TNT. What a thrilling debut.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Expo can be very, very frustrating to play against, and sometimes it's not the most fun to watch, but I'll be honest, that right there was a clinic. TNT played that picture perfect. The fireball early on top of that Inferno Tower, predicting the late Inferno Tower. Later on, the Ice Spirit picking up the Skelly Barrel drop, the log for the Skelly Barrel drop. Every single thing TNT was ready for the most, I guess, most likely move. It didn't feel like Sam had many options to kind of swerve to defend, as you have to do sometimes against Expo.
And it's interesting seeing TNT, rather than going with traditional 2.9, going with the Knight version over the Ice Golem version of 2.9 Expo. And you can see if you're expecting to be playing against this deck, that Knight gives you just a little bit more variability against the Goblin Barrel and against the Dark Goblin. So there's some value there in making that slight adjustment on TNT's side, and won that one fairly easily. And now going with a game in hand, a chance to give Tribe Gaming potentially a 2-set advantage to open up this semifinal.
Yeah, and then it's a big question of who comes into that third set. Is it actually Jupiter King, or will it be someone else from Tribe? And that is yet to be told. But as of right now, TNT coming into the West, showing great display with that Expo deck, like you said, with the Knight. And he really showcased that Knight numerous times, just putting a little bit of extra DPS on the map. Yes, the Ice Golem's great to pop and help with the Skelly Barrel maybe, or Skellies, but he did a really great job of a lot of times dropping something low and then the Knight high to get DPS on something like a Dark Goblin so he could preserve his log to clean things up later on. So Sam, after doing a great job 2-1 over Igor yesterday, now starting off 0-1 against TNT, who, I mean, this is exactly what we expect out of this guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, those of you who didn't watch CRL Asia, this is actually TNT's 4th season competing in CRL. His previous 3 with OG and Entis, including a CRL World Finals appearance you may have seen in that first round, and a very difficult match that they had against Team Liquid and Igor's stunning King of the Hill debut. But you talk about you talk about what TNT has done in his rookie season. He didn't play for the first 6 weeks. And when he finally came in, still was able to post the top win rate in CRL Asia over his 22 games, coming that late into the season. So that's the kind of player we're talking about.
So this is a trend. He just shows up late and just rocks it. All right, here we go.
That's what he does. Same thing in the fall 2019 season. Andrew, he had a rough start to the season and then went off in playoffs, going 12-1 in games overall, including a King of the Hill sweep over Kicks, taking out IMJP, X-Pedro, and Legend, and then 2 1v1 wins over Jack in the final versus Fav to secure their spot for World Finals.
So in case you thought Rich and I were just blowing a bunch of smoke, there's a reason why everyone has been waiting for TNT.
So this time, minor wall breakers from Samuel, and looking like it might be double bait from TNT.
Yep, 100%. I mean, double bait just dominating the entire meta. GCs, top ladder, everywhere.
Goblin Barrel left-hand side. Log takes care of that one easily. Dark Goblin on high will be taken out by the bats.
And
that's a really great swerve, Andrew.
Yeah, that was a really nice play there. Royal Delivery going to go behind. Valkyrie does get on tower. Really nice interactions there and plays by Samuel.
Yeah, I mean, he knew that there was going to be the log going to the wall breaker's left-hand side. The bats had already cleaned off that Dark Goblin and said, if there's no reason to throw the miner on the left-hand side, you're not going to get extra value out of it. Yep. He did on the right-hand lane. Very well played.
So this is going to be kind of like what we saw yesterday with Morton. It's going to be all about TNT trying to make Samuel make mistakes here, because he does have the appropriate responses. He's got a bomb tower, it's only a -1 trade, right? He's got the log, that's a +1 trade. He's got the Valkyrie even to help out with that. So very curious to see how this is going to play out.
Well, notice that bomb tower placement as well, Andrew. That's designed not just to take out that skeleton barrel, but that extra life it's going to have there to hopefully create some pressure on that goblin barrel. But you see TNT waiting long enough to force out the bats instead.
Yeah, really nice timing there by TNT, and I'm happy that he was able to showcase exactly what we were just talking about.
13:05 on the right-hand side, so TNT playing well, but so far playing from behind. Log not in cycle, and goes a bit jukey with that barrel in the back. High bomb tower from Samuel for that skeleton barrel.
Yeah, very jukey there, and the idea is just to kind of mix things up a little bit. Obviously, Sam is going to see the trajectory of that barrel and know it's not going on top, so the bats do a nice job cleaning things up.
Samuel has gone behind with the miner 3 times in a row. We'll see if he starts to vary up that placement a little bit more as time goes on. Here we go, entering sudden death overtime, and at the moment, it's Space Station's Samuel ahead by a few hundred HP as we get into this more critical phase.
Yeah, and here we go. Delivery going to come down, clean all that up. Great value here for TNT. Going to go back on the offensive. Bomb tower, though, Samuel doing a great job of keeping up with TNT's cycle.
A nice low inside miner that time, and we've seen Samuel a few times make that Knight take a long walk around the tower. And that's part of the advantage he has so far. 1081 to 1970.
Yeah, Sam is just perfectly in cycle here. TNT is going to drop another delivery here on top of that. Miner's going to go to the back. There it is. Does get picked up by the skeletons, though.
Yeah, that one you kind of saw coming at that point. He'd already done that tonight a couple times in a row. Easy choice on the skeletons there from TNT. And now starts to draw a bit more blood on the left-hand side.
Yeah, he beats the cycle around, gets in front of that log there from Samuel, and gets some nice goblin damage on the tower from that barrel.
Final minute, triple elixir approaching. Samuel in the lead, but it's slowly starting to fade away.
Yeah, TNT a little distracted there on the right-hand side, trying to defend. Wasn't able to get the Skelly Barrel up high in front of his Dark Goblin on the left-hand side to create just a little bit more pressure. And now Sam starting to pull away with this one.
High bomb tower does have to give up a little bit of damage there from that first Goblin Barrel. And there you go, minor poison actually in at this stage. That's going to give a little extra chip value as well.
Yeah, it was a really, really nice minor poison there. It cleans up the skeletons, but the Knight does pick up the minor, so nice play by TNT to keep things still even. Behind by about 300 HP, though, with 30 seconds left.
And you see that log on the left-hand side missed the Goblins on the back end, trying to get both the Goblins and the Skeleton Barrel. So that's why you're seeing 1109 there. A log missing those Goblins. Rare mistake there from Samuel. Still ahead, though.
Yeah, that is a big, big miss when you miss a log. Here we go. Trying to draw something out of the left-hand side so he can't defend the right. Can't continue to go on offense, but it will look like Sam is going to even things up here in the second set.
There you have it. Samuel taking game number 2 off TNT. Second verse, same as the first. We're all tied up and going to game number 3.
Yeah, you know, and this is something that's a really exciting moment for Space Station. Sam here playing very, very well once again today, keeping his team alive. And, you know, yesterday, I can't remember if he dropped the first game or not, but he did 2-1 Igor, and it was based off of some really, really great adjustments he made in that set. Check right now.
Take a look at the stats provided by Stats Royale, and you can see a big part of the game plan for Samuel. That bomb tower, 40 building elixir spent 8 times. Or is that the right math there? 10 times. Excuse me, 10 times putting that bomb tower down on the left on that left-hand side, playing defense, and that use of it and the placement critical for winning this one, which ended up being not quite as distant as it looked like in the beginning.
Yeah, you know, he played really patient in single elixir for that -1 trade he would make every single time. Then he'd make the +1 trade with the log there. You know, so that was one of the things. So here's this very early push that we were talking about. Minor goes to the back right-hand side instead of supporting the guard or the wall breakers on the left, and this actually allows that Valkyrie to get a couple swings in. So a really, really nice put together, orchestrated offense there from Samuel to get a lot of damage on tower early on.
And here we go, looking at the final moments, and once the poison cycle got in, it was going to be very, very difficult for TNT to really do anything. And between the log, the bats, the Dark Goblin, and the bomb tower, it felt like Samuel kind of had his defensive rhythm and sequence set together pretty well, and no big spell. So when you get down to those final moments, you have to get on tower as TNT, and all Samuel has to do is play some defense, put poisons down. Nice way to close things out and take us to game number 3.
Yeah, and you know, second verse, same as the first. It was this order of events yesterday. Sam did drop the first game against Igor, and then he reverse swept the set. So we'll see if he's going to be able to pull that off again today, and maybe end up being somewhat of a playoff hero here for Space Station Gaming. I mean, picking up this first 1v1 set 2 days in a row from a guy that we'd only seen play one time earlier this season is a really, really strong showing for someone who maybe just doesn't have all the confidence that they need to perform the way that they should in CRL, as opposed to at home on ladder.
Well, I mean, looking at this matchup, it's 2 players who've played very little this season. This is now going to only be TNT's 3rd game overall in 2020 for CRL, and of course Samuel didn't get a lot of reps during the regular season as well. So both guys, you got to imagine, are itching to really get themselves out there, itching to show their level here to this Western audience, especially TNT. And, you know, part of why, we talked about this before, part of why Tribe Gaming brought in Sean Kim as their coach was his understanding of the top players in the East he could bring over. And that's why you see Jupiter and TNT both on this roster.
Yeah, massive, massive pickups. Here we go, game 3 to decide set number 2 in our semifinals match day number 1 between Tribe Gaming and Space Station.
Skeleton Dragon split in the back. Magic Archer for Samuel. We haven't seen a ton of Magic Archer over this weekend. Saw a little bit in, I believe there was one Bridge Spam deck yesterday. Or maybe it was a Ram Rider deck.
So here we go. Dragons on the board for the bottom of your screen, and a Giant cycled in the back for Samuel for Space Station.
So this might be Giant Miner from Samuel here with the Magic Archer. Throws the Prince in the back, and it seems like people kind of forgot that Prince still has that big HP buff.
I know, I was just going to say it. It feels like people played Prince so much when he initially got his buff, but then it's almost like he's fallen out of the meta, and he's still incredibly, incredibly strong. I mean, look how much of a response he demands out right there.
So not much damage in the first minute or so. TNT with a little bit of chip on both lanes. Samuel has the right-hand tower down by just one log.
Both these guys gonna kind of play passively here in single. Make sure they don't give away too much.
You know, with how much double bait and bait was played yesterday, Andrew, I believe it was Carter who made the point. Former Tri player, specifically Carter, who made the point on Twitter about wondering why we weren't seeing much triple spell, especially giant triple spell, up against with so much bait in the meta. And not going triple spell here, but with the log and the zap, you do have good answers to that double bait if it were being played.
Yeah, and the other thing about this deck, too, is you look at those cards, and the Skellies, the zap, the log. Problem is you've only got one really, really high DPS card in the Prince. Bats are high DPS as well, but you look at all this splash damage, and it's going to be really, really hard to get them on the RG very quickly.
Here we go. Final minute of regulation. Double elixir now flowing, and TNT has taken the lead back 1373 to 1632 in the right-hand lane.
Magic Archer going to be played up high there once again. Fisherman trying.
Skeleton's not able to get that protection.
Yeah, Skelly's trying to protect the Magic Archer from the Fisherman.
Look at that King Tower activation there, Andrew. Fisherman pulls the Magic Archer across. King Tower activated. That's going to make things much, much more difficult for that miner.
Yeah, those are the little finesse plays that really get us to smile, you know. Oh, there you go. There's the high Skellies that actually pay off this time. Not going to be able to pull that giant in.
Magic Archer trying to get some geometry here, and that Skeleton Dragon moves.
Yeah.
So these are some big shots coming in. Very, very close right now between these two.
Now we got two dragons crossing the river. Baby up front to tank for the Skeleton Dragon. Giant comes back down to defend, and we're going to see another defensive sequence here from TNT with probably a bigger counter push than we saw in this last one.
Miner this time going to go to the safe spot. Has to after that King Tower activation. And that's a lot of chip damage from that Miner coming in.
Yeah, and here we go.
But how will Samuel contend with this Royal Giant?
Yeah, Lightning's going to be able to come down in just a few seconds if necessary. No, instead, we see a high Prince, so Lightning not going to be the wave.
558 to 488. Two baby dragons. Miner to try to pick those up. Miner's not going to last that long here. Bats behind.
That's trouble.
Samuel just trying to stay alive.
That is trouble. There's no way for Sam to defend this adequately. RG's going to get a shot. Lightning can come in. TNT going to do it.
And there you go. Lightning finishes things off. TNT in his CRL West debut, taking it 2-1, and now putting Tribe in a chance just one set away from the finals.
I mean, Space Station Gaming has been battling their hearts out in these sets, but just not able to close things out. And as you said, now every set for them is an elimination set, and you've got to beat Jupiter King.
You have to beat Jupiter King and, you know, either Buffer or Zealies. So it's going to be completely crazy to try to get this thing all the way to King of the Hill, where both these teams have really, really stacked King of the Hill rosters. TNT, very, very well played here. Good choices on when he used the Lightning as well.
Yeah.
Didn't overuse it. Use it at really opportune moments, and got a big win here over Samuel.
Yeah, so here we go. You know, this is the moment where he had to really sneak in the Fisherman plus the Skeletons to stop that Prince charge. That would have been the end of the game. After you see these Skellies plus Bats being dropped and then the Prince up high, you basically know there's no way to defend. I mean, even before you see the Prince being dropped down, there's just no way to get enough damage or to stall that Royal Giant long enough to make sure he doesn't get that one shot that is necessary to get that Lightning on tower and take the game. So TNT finally making his debut, goes 2-1 over Samuel Basoto, who played very, very well today and yesterday. Who's going to come out next for Space Station, and who is going to come out next for Tribe Gaming? Is this going to be the last set for Space Station in the spring or not? So many questions to be answered.
Well, for those of you keeping track at home, another thing to note, that's now continuing the streak.
Yep.
Tribe Gaming has never lost a set in CRL in 2020. So 2v2 down, 1v1 down. Right now, Space Station Gaming not only has to win 2 sets in a row to get to King of the Hill, They have to take a set off of a team that hasn't lost one yet. This is I don't care what happens from this point forward, this right now still is the best season we've seen out of CRL, barring the amazing SK Gaming season where they lost one match because they'd already secured everything and decided not to show decks before playoffs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Tribe has done something incredible this season. They've lost 5 games. Yes, that's correct. They've lost 5 games, and they're already 2 sets into a BO5 in playoffs. So Tribe is now the squad that everyone's already been all eyes on them, but after what they did in the 2v2 today, you see TNT come out, a guy that they haven't even played this season, they still haven't lost, come out today, put SSG on watch again. It does feel like Tribe is the Goliath of this bracket. Who's going to be the David, or will there be one? I really don't know. It does seem like Spacestation Gaming, though, might not be the David to their Goliath.
Well, think about how down everyone was on Tribe Gaming after the No Tilt League Special Edition, where they limped their way into 4th place on the back of an amazing performance by Jupiter King, who had one of the top 2 win rates overall, but the rest of the team very much underperformed. But this isn't No Tilt League Special Edition. This has 2v2. That was a double King of the Hill format. And what Buff and Azelius have done in 2v2 is amazing. And now here we go. It's going to be Buff and Lapakati in set number 3. Buffmac wins this set, has a chance to keep Tribe Gaming perfect and secure their spot in the finals.
Yeah, and you know, you talk about that massive acquisition in the offseason. We all probably thought, or at least I thought, up until rumors started rumbling, that Buffmac was going to be their head-to-head star and that they picked up Jupiter King. This is the first time we've seen Buff in a head-to-head match in all of 2020, so I'm just excited to see what he has to do and what he has to show us and maybe how much he's gotten better in the offseason.
Yeah, he had a rough outing during No Tilt League Special Edition, no question about that. He went 6-15, the second lowest win rate amongst players with 10-plus games, but that whole time he was just focusing on trying to grind his 2v2, get ready for CRL, so you got to kind of take those numbers. Phenomenal.
Yep, no surprise at all. Mortar Royal Hogs. This was actually a deck that was really, really popular, I believe, maybe in the spring of 2019. I can't.
Sorry for the disruptions that we're having here in the internet service.
I wanted to make a frequency
we'll
reference,
keep bringing you Clash Royale.
But then I realized that would just date me even more than I do on a regular basis. So we're back, we're here, and thank you so much for your guys' patience.
So interesting thing to look at here from Buffmac, RG with Zappies.
Yeah.
So we're seeing 2 of the cards that got a little bit of love in the recent update between the Zappies and the Fisherman.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Buff is going to go for that King Tower activation with his Fisherman on those Hogs, or if not. It feels like, as of right now, maybe it's a little bit too late with only 800 HP remaining on that tower. But something that you usually do see people go for when they have a Fisherman against Royal Hogs.
Royal Hogs coming in, Heal Spirit trying to help them out. Nice fireball value there on the left-hand side for this one. But still ahead right now is Lapakati, both on damage and elixir, with 22 seconds left in regulation.
Yeah, and this feels like an unwinnable game for Buffmac at this point. I can't imagine Lapakati would make just a little bit more damage on this tower. And knowing him, he could also just wait out the next couple minutes easily defensively with that mortar and this very, very quick cycle.
Fisherman gets across, doesn't do much though. Here we go, sudden death overtime, 773 to 1900. Mortar down for the Royal Giant, Musketeer low.
Yeah, Valkyrie going to be played high, Skelly's on top, just a beautiful sequence of defense there that turns into a very, very strong counter push by Lapakati. Log has to come out because those Skellys demand a response.
Fireball gets a little bit more chip on the left-hand side, 572, not quite in spell cycle range, but firmly in control right now as the Space Station representative.
Yeah, and here we go. This is going to be the moment for Buffmac if he really wants to take this game, to steal this game. It's going to be with RGs in the back like this. He's got to figure out a way to beat the cycle, get on top of that mortar. It's going to be really, really tough, though, when he's using that fireball to clean up the Royal Hogs, which is a necessity.
Fisherman in the back. Nice skeletons up front to protect. Do not protect the Valkyrie, though. She comes all the way to the backfield. Royal Hogs in now on the left-hand side for Lapakati. That's going to be it. GG. Well played. Lapicati takes game number 1 off of Buff.
So Lapo breathing a little bit of life back into Spacestation Gaming, and this is probably exactly the matchup that Trainer Luis wanted to see. He wants to see his best 1v1 guy taking a set off of probably someone other than Jupiter King right now. I mean, if he takes a set off Jupiter King, that's incredible, but the idea that your best player is going up against Jupiter, it's a 50-50, right? Maybe not even a 50-50. So Lapo here taking a win in this set with Jupiter King most likely in the 4th set is a really, really great moment for Space Station.
Lapicati lifetime win rate coming into today is 61%. A big part of that, the astounding 72% win rate in his debut season with Immortals when they took 3rd place in the West back in the spring. A very talented player, and this guy's a big guy who's a momentum player too. When he's confident, it's very, very difficult to beat him. Trying to get 2 games in a row off of Lapo for Buffmac now is going to be very difficult. The one thing I'm concerned about here, Andrew, is does Lapo go mortar bait in game number 2 as he's been known to do?
I think probably not. I think Lapo maybe goes for something a little bit more defensive, a little bit more control heavy, but still a very, very quick cycle, knowing what he likes. Maybe Minor Prince, maybe, just some sort of control. Not exactly sure, but we've seen him do it many times before in elimination situations, just because his interactions, his micros, is better than almost anyone else out there. So I'd probably expect that out of him. But then alternatively, you might expect Buffmac to be playing into that. He's watched Lapo for a very, very long time. They're friends. So I'm not sure what to expect here. I do have to say, Mortal Royal Hogs, it's so fun to watch, but it's so hard for me to play. I just cannot master it, and watching that display was excellent.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain decks where you take a look at and you go like, that seems like that's fairly easy to do, and then you realize that they're a professional and you're just a guy. So that's the difference. Let's go ahead and jump into game number 2 here. Lapicati, game in hand. Space Station really needs this one to stay alive. I mean, these next 2 games, critical for the guys from Space.
Yeah, and one thing you were talking about with confidence in Lapicati and being a momentum player, the pressure gets to Lapicati when he's not high confidence, right? But when he's riding high, nothing gets to this guy. Absolutely nothing. We've seen him on the stands smiling, kind of BMing in real life in very high pressure situations because he's just a kid that when he's playing great, everyone can feel it in the room.
Oh yeah, the hip swaying dance on the tower. Yeah, Lapo when he's in the groove, he's very, very difficult to disrupt at all. We'll see if that's the case today.
So here we
Graveyard.
go.
Looks like it might be going Graveyard both directions, Andy.
Yeah, agreed. And a very aggressive Graveyard on the right-hand side. That Valkyrie's on tower. Lapo recognizing the cycle, and a bad NATO from Buffmac start off this game horribly for Tribe.
Failed NATO is, we talk about it a lot, Andrew, one of the biggest elixir throwaways you can actually have in the game. And there you go, 11:45 right-hand lane. Lapo's barely been touched.
Yeah.
Buffmac in a lot of trouble early.
Yeah, Buff kind of piled everything on the left-hand side, and Lapo made the really, really correct decision, and honestly, a very easy decision to make. You see all those units going down on the left-hand side, the Knight, the Ice Wizard, and the Goblin Cage, and 99% what your opponent's running. You go aggro, Valkyrie Graveyard, right-hand lane, very little to defend.
Valk Poison to defend, and that Valkyrie doing a good job defending both the Baby Dragon and the Graveyard, although now giving a few extra pieces of splash damage. And Buffmac now not that far behind, 1784 to the 1145 on his right-hand side.
Yeah, 600 damage is absolutely nothing when you're running Graveyard as your win condition.
Both these guys have had their moments on ladder. Buffmac 4 finishes in the top 4, including a number 1. Lapicati, of course, 2-time number 1, 7 top 3 finishes.
Here we go. Both these guys just setting up things in the back, wondering which battle is going to happen on which bridge.
Bar Barrel jumps ahead for Buffmac on the left-hand side, and now Lapo just trying to set the line high right now against this potential Graveyard push. And not going to Graveyard here to the left-hand side. He's got the lead on the right and does not want to give an opportunity for a big counter push into his weak side.
Yeah, really nice defense here by Buffmac, but just needs to get damage on that left-hand tower. And I don't think Lapo's going to let him.
Buffmac leaking a little bit here just to make his best decision. Graveyard in on the right-hand side. Defensive poison does come out. An offensive poison, though, from Lapacati to get that cage and a little bit extra DPS.
Yeah, Skeletons don't do a lot there, but Tower now down below 700 HP with an 1100 HP advantage. This feels like the moment where Buffmac needs to pull the trigger, but he can't do it with only 6 Elixir. It would be a very, very easy graveyard to defend, and then you would leave yourself wide open defensively.
And Lapo's done a fantastic job of winning these bridge battles on both sides, of setting the line high so no tank can cross for the graveyard on the left, and then getting his tanks into his opponent's territory on the right.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that Lapo here, he's got beefier tanks that do more damage, right? He's got the Valkyrie and the Brawler, and then if you talk single target DPS, that Mega Minion has been excellent for Lapo.
That Nado from Buffmac, you see the idea he was going for, trying to make room for the Knight to get in, but it's a little bit too late for the Knight to start tanking, and of course, it turned the Valkyrie into defense against the Graveyard as well, so 2 Nados here that were a bit suspect from the Tribe 2v2 play.
Yeah, and you know, this is exactly what we're talking about with Lapacati feeling himself. He's starting to BM, he's starting to do his little thing, and that was it right there. You see 2-0 for Spacestation, back alive. Tribe still up 2-1 when we're in regards to sets, but now you know what's going to happen. We all know what it's going to be, Rich. It's going to be the God RF versus Jupiter King for a must-win set against the guy that has only dropped 1 game this season.
I mean, look, if there's a best of 3 that you could wish for, there are very few that are better than this one. The God RF, who's having one of the best 2020s of anybody in competitive Clash Royale, and Jupiter King, who is also having one of the best 2020s of anybody in competitive Clash Royale, head-to-head to decide Space Station's future. This is going to be so much fun. But taking a look at this one, Buffmac has been phenomenal in 2v2 for his team. His head-to-head woes continue in this 2020 campaign.
So here we go. Let's take a look at some of those woes, and this was Lapacati late in the game. He gets a Mega Minion plus a Graveyard aggro at the river. It does get caught by the Goblin Cage, but the BM's coming out, the Poison's going to come in. There's so much value there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen that Lapacati here just knows that he's won this, and a lot of that is accredited to what we talked about earlier with the beefiness of the tanks on Lapacati's side of the map, and then the high single target DPS with the Mega Minion and the Archers. And of course, that Valkyrie is going to be so much better for you on those bridge battles than something like a Knight.
Well, we saw the Valkyrie also doing double duty, where it picked up the aggro from the Baby Dragon and was still helping defend the Graveyard as well on one push. So you look at that, all those different pieces, and just a few better pieces for the defense against the Graveyard, and better pieces for winning those bridge battles most of the time. And then you factor in the Tornadoes not doing what they needed for Buffmac, and a pretty solid win there for Lapacati to extend the life of Space Station.
So with how much double bait has been played and how effective the Dark Goblin is at defending something like a Graveyard, I'm really curious to see if we'll see any Graveyard from the God RF today or not. I'm curious if we'll see any double bait from either of these guys because it's so popular / predictable, but then also you got to guess which game they're going to come out with that popular meta deck. So a very, very exciting set coming up your way, and you know what? This is a great moment to talk about Fantasy Royale. Why? Because Jupiter King and the God RF have been 2 of the highest scoring players in the entire season. Now, obviously, Tribe could make it a little easier on us if they would go to a 3rd set ever, but they got a lot of crowns along the way. And you talk about the God RF and what he did yesterday in the 1v1 and in 2v2. Go and get those lineups set. I believe they'll open back up on Tuesday for finals next Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild race to the finish. I think the leader coming in today had 62 crowns, which is fairly astounding. Here we go. Jupiter King and the God RF. Best of 3. Let's jump into it. I am so pumped for this matchup, Andrew.
Oh, me too, man. This is one of the ones where you kind of just want to sit back and watch, but don't worry, guys. Don't worry.
I have to commentate this?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. Heal Spirit for Jupiter. And so far, quick cycle. Just a couple cycle cards from both players.
Yeah, so, you know, Skellies we see a lot with Royal Giant. We see it a lot with, you know, that double bait deck. Jupiter King, Heal Spirit. Heal Spirit's coupled a lot with Royal Hogs. Things like Ram Rider.
Musketeer down behind the Knight for the God RF.
And Royal Giant. I was like, I'm missing one of the biggest win conditions right now. Oh, wow. Gonna go Graveyard early and aggressive.
Oh, GY Musk, so, you know, known for Splash Yard. Still a great Graveyard player all the way around. Decides to go for GY here with the Skelly Dragons.
Yeah, and these Skelly Dragons should do really actually great cleanup coupled with those skeletons on the top side of the map here. Musketeers, Skelly Dragons will probably even things out.
And a slight Elixir lead, about 2 ahead is the God RF as the first minute and 15 passes.
Yeah, 2 Elixir ahead and a few hundred damage. So the God RF rocking Graveyard in game number 1, maybe calling Jupiter King's bluff. As you can see so far, we don't see, a great way of cleaning up skeletons. The Heal Spirit will help, the Log will help, the Lumberjack will help, but, it's nothing like something like a Poison or a Valkyrie or a bigger splash unit.
Is this the same Loon Cycle deck that we saw Igor run 3 times in a row yesterday?
Yeah, it could be.
We see, there we go. There's the Lumberjack and the Balloon to the right-hand side.
So Lumberjack going to go right onto that Barb Hut, going to help take it down a little bit, but the Balloon cruising through with the help of that Heal Spirit.
Wow, gets a nice connection, although between the Barbs and a lot on the board. Oh, what a beautiful Ice Golem to deal with all of that going the opposite direction. Very, very well played from Jupiter.
Yeah, yesterday I said that maybe we saw one of the best Ice Golem kites ever. That was a beautiful, beautiful plus a dozen trade right there with that Ice Golem.
Lumberloon left-hand side this time. Balloon will sneak past that Barbarian Hut, and a late delivery means Balloon connects. Will it get a second drop? It does not, but still damage done. Big connections before we get into sudden death on both sides for Jupiter.
And RF needs to start thinking about how he's playing the defense against those Lumberloon pushes. The problem is that he's getting high, and he's high and early on his Knight because he needs to catch the Lumberjack, but the problem is that allows Jupiter King to drop that Heal Spirit early with success 100% of the time.
Big potential counter push coming in here. Musketeer is being tanked for by those Barbarians. Opponent's Musketeer for Jupiter King now in the poison. And we'll see if the God RF can set up pretty nicely, Andrew.
Yeah, 1700 bottom left, 1156 top left here. God RF, 2 Barb Huts on the board, but not getting to the tower as much as he'd like.
And Jupiter really can't cycle on that right-hand side at the moment. And there we go. He does get the Ice Golem and Balloon down. Could not throw the Lumberjack that direction. He did the DPS on the left-hand side. And this time, the delivery is played correctly. Balloon will not connect.
Yeah, a lot of Elixir demanded out of that right-hand lane. Still gets the death damage, and that death damage is going to continue to add up. Now, whether the bomb drops on the left or the right-hand side, that will be the damage, or the tower that takes the damage lead.
But look at what's coming across the left-hand side here, Andrew.
3 Elixir.
Knight, 2 Musketeers, Graveyard. There's no way to defend this. Jupiter King
Wow.
going to take the L here. The God RF with the comeback. Great win here for Spacestation.
Just wearing him down over the course of 3 minutes and 45 seconds, play after play. Jupiter King extending his damage lead, but sinking into an Elixir hole with those barbs stacking up on the map. And right then, when you saw that mass crossing the river and the trigger pulled on the Graveyard, Jupiter King had 3 Elixir to deal and no chance.
Well, you saw when he got the Balloon on tower was when Jupiter played the Lumberjack and Balloon together, and that Rage was able to make the Balloon push through and go a little bit faster and make the timing difficult on the delivery. But that last Balloon on the right-hand side, Jupiter was forced to play the Lumberjack in defense against those Barbarians.
Yeah.
So when his push on the other side had to be Ice Golem Balloon, and that was not able to push through against the Skeleton Dragons and the Royal Delivery defense.
And RF did a great job of kind of making Jupiter King commit a little bit more Elixir to defense than he'd like, whether it was something just like defending a Musketeer with his barbs or with Skeletons up front, Skelly Dragons sneaking in front, anything like that. It made it so Jupiter King could never commit just a few more Elixir to the right-hand side, and RF completely controlled that game.
So there's that first Balloon connection, Andrew. The Raged Up, the Snowball, the Heal Spirit, all of that able to get the Balloon on. But then here we are in the final sequence, and you can see just how much is stacked on the left-hand side. You can stop some Barbarians, you can log some of that back, but there's no way to get those Musketeers off the board when they're protected like that when you have a Snowball and a log.
Right.
No way to get into the backfield, and there you go, GG, well played. Spacestation takes game number 1.
Yeah, and that must have been a scary moment for Jupiter King when he recognized what was coming across the river. He had to have felt that RF had enough Elixir, and he only had 3. There's no way to get around it, and you talked about protecting that Musketeer, and I did just a minute before that. That was really the name of the game for RF to really break through on that left-hand side, demanding Jupiter King to play his Lumberjack, to play his Musketeer, to defend against those barbs plus, but then winning that bridge battle, at the same time defending well against the balloon push on the right-hand lane, all of a sudden you find yourself up about 20 elixir. If you talk about barbs and barb huts and what's coming across and pulling that trigger on the graveyard, very well played by arguably the best graveyard player in the world.
And great great focus to not kind of get that damage early on both sides and start making poor decisions or feel like you have to start firing back immediately. The patience on the side of RF to go, okay, look, there's a connection on that side, I'm behind in both lanes, but I have a game plan. I know that I get the advantage the longer this goes on. Let's make that happen.
Yeah, so here we go. Let's go into game number 2. The God RF up 1 against Jupiter King. And, to continue on that thought, when I did a coaching session with the God RF, that was one of the biggest things I noticed about his play. Because he's such a great graveyard player, he is one of the most patient people you will ever watch play the game, because he goes, I only need one. I only need one good graveyard, and it can come with 20 seconds left in the game.
Cheeky little NATO there from Jupiter King. RF pushes that back with the log to keep the damage off tower. While we're seeing Ice Wizard, NATO, and Knight from Jupiter. Are we seeing the Ice Rocket here?
Yeah, I mean, Ice Rocket maybe being in defense to another graveyard deck, thinking that RF might run it back, but, definitely not going to be the case here, and Wallbreaker's going to be coming down the right-hand lane.
And there you go. By the way, those of you who call it Ice Bow, that's the old name for this deck.
Right.
That's the outdated name for this deck. This deck is Ice Rocket. X-Bow is almost secondary at this stage. This deck is going to just hold you down, make it tough, and then when it gets into triple elixir, throw a bunch of rockets at your head and tell you, can you dodge these? I bet not.
Yeah, and speaking of tough, it's going to be one of those things for RF to get those Expos off the board if they start getting stacked up defensively. So we'll see how he wants to respond to that. We'll see if Jupiter starts playing those when we get close to double elixir time. I mean, if Jupiter can, he's going to try to build a city on his side of the map with some Teslas and, of course, those Expos.
Interesting seeing Tribe Gaming go to Expo twice today. We've seen that once from TNT with that 2.9 variation, and then now Jupiter King going with this version.
And this is what I'm talking about, 10 seconds coming in, Tesla on the board to help defend. You kind of min-max your defense so that you're at 10 when double elixir hits.
And here we go, double elixir time, and let's see what Jupiter King does now as it starts to flow a bit more.
Here we go, the first defensive Expo is down, and RF does have a poison in response.
Miner goes to the outside, and that's going to distract for the wall breaker. It will connect on that Expo. Brilliant sequence from the God RF to get some damage and take care of that defensive Expo.
I could not agree more. And just to add a little cherry on top, the Bat gets 3 big-time bites in to give RF a substantial lead here. But it only takes 1 Expo lock, but losing a Tesla like that is not going to be the way to do it.
Oh, boy. This is a dangerous situation here for RF. I mean, he knows the timing, has to make sure he's always cycled, and a big log. NATO's all that back. Expo barely gets any shots. What a crazy fight this is, Andrew.
Yeah, but if you look at the elixir on the board, Jupiter King in a massive lead, so he's going to get a defensive Expo down now. RF maybe has to respond with the poison. No, he goes minor poison aggressive, so this is going to be the moment if Jupiter wants to take the game. This next Expo that comes down is when he does it.
And now Jupiter is starting that rocket cycle, so 1629, although he is under 1,000 HP on the left-hand side, sets up defensive Tesla. Poison for the skeletons, RF putting a lot of damage on there.
I love it. I love what RF is doing. He recognizes the race that he's in right now. He knows that if he stays hyper aggro, those offensive Expos are going to be harder and harder to get down on the board. And when they are on the board, he has been managing them very, very well. So this time, a miner has to go in with the poison.
And the Spear Goblins do pick up, and again, just a couple of shots from the Expo, but it just takes a few rockets to steal this one back for Jupiter King with that rocket log cycle. And there you go, look at the wall breakers, forcing the NATO out. Beautiful prediction play by RF, had that Expo on the right-hand side timed out perfectly.
Yeah, I know that's not going to look pretty in the replays, but we'll make it sound pretty. We got to pull that because that is a beautiful predictive wall breaker play. And just like that, miner to the back, poison on tower, Spear Goblins in, and RF is going to be the first person to take a set off Jupiter King in 2020.
Unbelievable. The God RF indeed. What an amazing game. There are so many beautiful plays from RF in that one. You don't know which one to choose. Is it the one at the front where he threw the miner to tank for the wall breaker to take that defensive expo down? It's the prediction wall breakers to set up the defensive bomb tower against the expo on the right. I mean, that was, if you want to see a beautiful play against Ice Bow, Ice Rocket, whatever you want to call it, that's the game right there.
Yeah, and if you also want to see someone 2-0 Jupiter King ever, this is maybe the one chance you're going to see it in CRL. That was an incredible series by both of these guys. The battles that happened, the mental battles that happened at the river with all those things you're just talking about was some of the most fascinating interactions I've ever seen in this game. And the fact that somehow they were like 5 steps ahead of each other, RF comes out 6 steps ahead and barely steals that victory for a nice 2-0 win.
And the confidence you have to have if you're Spacestation now going into that fifth and final set in King of the Hill. Just beautiful, unbelievable play from them. Check this out. Wall breakers come down perfectly on that expo. NATO tries to fix it, but doesn't matter. You got the bomb tower down, got the knight down. Beautiful, beautiful play by the God RF. And that sequence right there might have been what won him the game.
150%, because the other thing about it is that he did a great job of dropping that knight before. That's right there. You see the knight is down before the bomb tower, so the expo is focused on the bomb tower. Why does that matter? What can you put in the right-hand lane if you're Jupiter King? The answer is absolutely nothing. You can't stack a Tesla, you can't cycle anything towards it, you can't cycle an Ice Wiz, and you definitely don't want to play another expo in it. So very well played by the God RF. And I know what that wow was. I know this man. That was a wow to himself going, I cannot believe I just 2-0'd Jupiter King.
And the way he did it, too, just beautiful, beautiful gameplay. One of the best 2020s out of anybody in competitive Clash Royale. The God RF continuing it, and now has a chance to put his team all the way through. It's King of the Hill, Andrew.
I know.
It looked like we wouldn't get here at first. It really felt like it was going to be maybe a straight 3-set sweep for Tribe Gaming, and here we go. 3 team members from each side. Each player has just 1 life. You get knocked out, you sit down, you keep winning, you stay on the hill. Man, what do they even bring out? I mean, are the lineups pretty set? Is it going to be Jupiter King, TNT, Buffmac versus Samuel, Lapacati, and RF?
I mean, you would think so. Unless maybe Buff is super tilted from his set, you can't imagine that he would sit out, but you never know. We did talk earlier in the match day today about 2018 and Azili's doing very well in head-to-head, or, showing up in head-to-head at least. Let's say that. On the other side of it, definitely. That is definitely locked in. You've got to go Sam, Lapo, and of course, the God RF again after what they just did in those 1v1 sets. This is crazy, because you talk about a team in Immortals that is now, it's not Immortals anymore, it's Spacestation Gaming, but if you look at AC and RF for so long, you talk about, well, no, hold on, that wasn't a mistake, this is on purpose. Immortals was always a 2v2 squad. It was a squad that you always needed to take that 2v2. It would set the confidence, it was a set that they basically dominated. Now that you're seeing what they've done today, losing the 2v2 and bouncing back, firing back in 1v1, this is huge for Trainer Luis and Spacestation Gaming.
Well, that's a big part of why he wanted to bring in Samuel and Lapo, was to go, look, the 2v2 is going to be a lock most of the time, but we need some real reliability in that second half of it. And bringing in Lapacati obviously paid off very well in the 2019 spring season, and then adding Samuel in to give themselves some more variability. There were some questions about what this team looks like in a BO5 set versus BO3 set. I think those questions are answered.
Yeah.
I think Spacestation is more dangerous in BO5 than they are in BO3.
Well, it's because I think a big part of that is the God RF. It's a guy that's stuck in the 2v2 set because you can't take him out of it. But you put him in any 1v1 or King of the Hill, and he beats anyone. He beats Jupiter King. That is why a BO5 really does lean in favor of Spacestation, when a lot of times people would say, no, they're BO3s because their 2v2 is always going to win. So here, look at that.
Wow, a few surprises here. Azili's in for Buffmac, which after that 1v1 set, maybe you get it, maybe you understand it in that situation, and Azili's, of course, one of the all-time greats. But a surprise for me here as well on the other side, Andrew, with RF leading off rather than playing the anchor for Spacestation.
Yeah, maybe Lapo wants to close things out. Maybe he's feeling really, really good about what he did against Buffmac. Maybe RF is still riding high from that last set. or maybe they didn't want RF to have to face off against Jupiter King again, and thinking maybe they can ride him through a couple players before Jupiter closes things out. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they thought that it'd be either Buffmac or Azealis in game number 1 and thought RF can go out there and have a significant advantage over one of those two from our perspective, and wanted to put RF there just to give them a cushion with at least 1 or 2 wins to start things off.
So RF misses the log on the barb, demands that Ice Golem to come out. Log only hits the Fisherman, and Azealis sets up the Baby Dragon in the back.
It's looking like Minor Loon most likely for the God RF, and Royal Giant for Azealis. And you know, we've seen a couple of looks from Tribe today. They've liked Expo, and they've liked Royal Giant today.
Yeah, and you know, RF now with this push, it feels like, yep, I was going to say, that lightning coming down from Azealis is a little aggressive. So you'd imagine a balloon push coming in for RF. Should be managed very easily, though, by Tribe.
One interesting meta shift, Andrew, that it's important to point out with Balloon is now in both the sort of classic Balloon decks we've seen today, Lumberloon Cycle and Minor Muskaloon, you've seen the Goblin Cage as a substitute. In this deck, instead of Bomb Tower or Inferno Tower if you go way back. And then in the other deck, it used to be Bats instead of the Goblin Cage. But that Goblin Cage does give you one key factor. Besides being a pull, that Brawler can act as a third potential tank for that balloon.
Yeah, fast tank for that balloon, and not only that, he does a lot of damage defensively now too. So Goblin Cage, Goblin Brawler, I think in a very, very great place. I'm happy with it, happy seeing it as much as we do, because it's not an instant win, obviously, and you know, we'll see how much it comes into play here on both sides of the map.
Azealis sets up Royal Giant to the right-hand lane as we approach double elixir time, knowing he has plenty of time to set up something behind that, maybe get to his lightning if he wants it as well.
So RF going to cycle as quickly as he can now to get back around to another cage. And he should get there just in time.
He's also trying to... Oh, there you go. So part of that also was he wanted to make sure the lightning wasn't going to be used on offense on that right-hand side to get the Musketeer and other defense off the board. So an aggressive balloon push on the left-hand side, meaning you either have to spend the lightning defensively, as we saw, or you don't have the elixir for the lightning because you're playing other defenses.
Yeah, and that's a really, really great point you make, because you know, when you play against this Royal Giant deck, it cycles so quickly, you find yourself just having to play defense over and over on the right-hand side when you really don't want to, or I guess in the lane that they're attacking, and then all of a sudden you give them lightning value on every single push. RF did a great job of creating enough pressure in the opposite lane, as you said, to make sure that that was not an option for Azealis. So that's what you have to do when you find yourself in this matchup with RG Lightning.
Baby Dragon sets up to the left-hand side into the weak tower of Azealis, and he does have options, and that's also the weak-hand side for the God RF, so we'll see what gets played here, and Lightning takes the Musketeer off the board. Second cage down, though, for RF.
Brawler in, 2 Brawlers on top of that RG. RG does get a shot in, however, Minor on the backside, or excuse me, Ice Golem on the bottom of the map getting some hits in on that tower. RF still in the lead.
Muskie low on the Baby Dragon, will take one belch on the tower. And now a big push setting up on the left-hand side. How does he stop this Royal Giant? Goes high with the cage to make things a little bit harder for that Lightning. Royal Giant does not connect. RF still in the lead here. Azealis, though, as this gets deeper and deeper, it's going to get some bigger and bigger pushes on the left-hand side.
Yeah, agreed. And when that triple elixir starts flowing, those Lightnings are going to come harder and heavier, and they are doing a lot of damage already.
Balloon push to the right now, even though he has the lead on the left-hand side, trying to keep the aggro, keep the fight away from that tower, not give any more lightning value to the left-hand lane. Musketeer playing defense. The Ice Golem does not get the pickup for the Fisherman.
Musketeer, they're going to turn and help with all this stuff on the right-hand side. Snowball's going to come in as well. Muskie stays alive, which is going to be huge for damage on this Royal Giant. And there you go, Minor, Skellies plus the cage.
That snowball from RF was brilliant because it pushed the DPS away to the right-hand tower and didn't give an even bigger push on the left-hand side. Now more pressure on the right-hand side. Musketeer, Minor in, Balloon in, trying to stop Royal Giant shots. Does not get in. RF playing crazy defense right now. Azealis putting the pressure on.
Yeah, what RF is doing right now with the log in conjunction with his Snowball and Goblin Cage is incredibly impressive to keep this Royal Giant at bay. There's the Lightning High to stop the cage, and it does allow one shot in. However, RF going on the aggressive right-hand side again.
And notice the Minor coming in to right where the Fisherman is, trying to get that chip damage, trying to get a little bit more in. Can he block the Lightning? No, he cannot. It's going to be, will the Balloon connect? No, it does not. by just a hair, Azealis takes out the God RF and wins Game 1 of King of the Hill.
And that is a huge, huge win for Tribe. To take RF off the tower, now you're going to turn the pressure on for Samuel Basoto, who is in that second spot and who has struggled a little bit more this season. And of course, if Sam goes down as well, then Lapo's got a 1-2-3, all of Tribe. So a massive, massive win here for Azealis.
That was a huge one, Andrew, and you saw the way that Azealis was setting up the right-hand side to prepare for the miner to come in.
Yeah.
You saw the Fisherman being placed in a way where it's going to pull the miner off, waiting for the Skeletons for the drop to pick up the miner. Really, really good preparation for those final moments because, it wouldn't have taken much there for RF to steal that win away from Azealis.
Yeah, early cycled Skellies, the bar barrel low to catch that miner, get as much damage on it as soon as possible. Make sure he does not get on tower. This balloon was incredibly close, but this on the right-hand, or the top left-hand side, the snowball pushes everything away. Baby Dragon here turns around and gets one belch. That belch is, those two belches are massive, Rich. Just massive.
Yeah, I think this game was decided by 101, I think is what I saw there on the final tower. So every one of these little touches on the left-hand side are huge. That last RG shot, those Baby Dragon belches. And here you go. We're going to see that final sequence one more time. Watch how Azealis sets up with the Fisherman, sets up with the Skeleton surround, and is able to keep most of that miner damage off tower.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that you can really give RF credit for right there is setting the miner in the top left so that the Fisherman wasn't able to pull it away. But Azealis had 3 other units there. The Fisherman, like you said, Skellies, and the Bar Barrel to clean up that miner. So really, really nice defense from Azealis. Stays alive and gives Tribe a massive win here in King of the Hill. Taking off today, arguably their best player today. Not in general in the whole squad, but RF had done so much for SSG, and now going to take a seat for maybe the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's a big one. And so now it comes to Samuel for the moment, and then La Picardi will be their last guy if we get there. Interesting thing to know also about Tribe, Andrew, is throughout this season, they've kind of bucked the meta. Whether you're talking about playing Elixir Golem in 2v2, or now today with Lightning coming in both in 2v2, and we haven't seen much Lightning in head-to-head play. It has not been very popular. They've been a little bit unpredictable, good deck construction, but not right down the middle of what you expect, and I think that's a big part of Tribe's success this season.
Yeah, I believe that was them that ran that Lava Hound deck, the Lava Miner deck, in the 2v2 in their third game to win, and that was another one of those decks that you look at and you're like, I haven't really seen this Double Dragon, Skelly Dragon, Lava Miner combo much in 2v2 at all in CRL, and once again, Tribe busts that out and takes the W. So here we see RF, head and hands, going to take a seat for the rest of the day. Samuel up next, then followed by La Picardi if necessary. Here we go. Azealis, Samuel, King of the Hill.
We forget about Azealis as a head-to-head player, but lifetime over his career has a 53% win rate in this final set. In his last season with Team Queso, he was 67% in King of the Hill with 2 King of the Hill sweeps last fall.
Wow. Wow, you forget about that, right?
You do, but I know who has not, and that's Azealis and Tribe Gaming.
Wow, right there, Sam, with a massive blow. That Royal Delivery coming across the river, tanking for those goblins, gives him about 900 damage on that tower.
Quite a chunk there on the left-hand side. First 45, 50 seconds away, and it is Samuel out to an early, comfortable lead. And, we talk about this every time we see bait, Andrew. If you're behind playing against it or behind playing with it, either way, that momentum is critical.
Yeah, and it's looking like Azealis here is going to be running Graveyard, so we'll see how that fares against this double bait deck. And Goblin Barrel in again, 2 goblins on tower.
Well, Dart Goblin and Log, 2 of the critical pieces that we'll see Samuel using as defense. Of course, delivery as well, even with that drop delay will be a part of that once those graveyards do start coming in. The big question, I think, for Samuel is going to be how does he set the line? How does he prevent the huge tankage? And what kind of lead can he get before we get into double and even worse, triple elixir?
Yeah, and the big thing about that is going to be keeping these barbarians very, very managed. The barb huts are going to be hard to get to, so he has to deal with the barbarians very, very well and very cheaply.
Skeleton Barrel goes into the Barb Hut on the left-hand side. You see how it's set up there a little bit more to the left than you might normally see, and that's knowing where Samuel wants to play at the moment.
Yeah, that's a bit of what I was talking about there. You know, you saw Sam play that Dark Goblin plus the Skeleton Barrel to get a lot of damage on that Barb Hut. Probably takes away half of its health, and again, makes it just more manageable to deal with. You don't want to go into that big Elixir hole, as you saw exactly what RF did with it against Jupiter.
Delivery Skeletons do their easy work on the right-hand side. Goblin Barrel comes into the left. It's going to be the Skeleton Dragons, but they're not a perfect response. They're going to give a little bit of damage every single time, 1027 to 1706.
Yeah, not a perfect response, but the idea there is that they're going to create a little bit of a counter push, but if he's not going to get a big enough counter push, these barrels are really, really adding up. And look at that right-hand side.
And look at that, Skeleton Barrel does a ton on the right. Yeah, Andrew, wow. Azili's cycling Musketeer on the back on the left-hand side. Starting to get some poison cycle of his own against Samuel.
So now we see the Skelly Dragons go right, so the barrel goes left.
448 on that bottom left-hand tower. Samuel with the lead in both lanes, at least for the moment. But as RF has said about Graveyard, and you quoted earlier today, Andrew, it only takes one.
Yep, and this, I don't even think he's going to get that one down. If he does, maybe it's a last-ditch effort right now. Yes, it is. We're going to see something played up very, very high. There are the Skeletons. There's the Knight. Dark Goblins in the back and the front.
That Dark Goblin played in the back took an extra step forward that Samuel didn't want to get into poison range, but I don't know if that's going to matter. No way to really hold off against what should be, yeah, just one more cycle around here for Samuel.
Get that log down. Graveyard's in.
Dark Goblin this time you see played much further behind and dropped just a half second later. And here you go. Goblins will stab. That's going to be it. Samuel takes game number 2 and evens up the set.
This has been such a crazy back and forth today. Azili's takes out RF. Sam takes out Azili's. TNT is going to be up next. And that was very, very well played by Samuel. He did exactly what you have to do when you're playing against Graveyard with bait, which is stay hyper aggro, keep switching lanes, make it so your opponent can never truly support the pushes that come across the river, or so that they can never have a tank for their Graveyard.
Take a look at the stats, courtesy of our friends over at Stats Royale, and you can see the not a lot of building elixir played by Samuel despite having the Inferno Tower in his hand. So he played that entire game with 3 cards, Andrew, as opposed to with 4. That's almost more impressive about this situation. Is that Inferno Tower sat there taking up a space for the entire run of that game.
Yeah, you know, and he did a great job of recognizing if I play this Inferno Tower, it's going to be a 5 elixir commitment that should be pretty easy for Azili's to deal with, whether it's distracting it, whether it's taking it off the board with the Skelly Dragons plus the poison. It was a really, really smart play, but like you said, you've only got 3 cards rotating in your hand. Didn't seem to stop Samuel in the slightest.
So here we go, pretty simple finish, and you see Samuel, the defensive choices he has against the Graveyard, the Dark Goblin way in the back to force that poison to be split up. Goblin Barrel comes on in, couple stabs, GG, well played, we're tied.
And if you are playing against a Dark Goblin, you're playing Graveyard with poison, that's exactly what you want to do there, is you want to play it very, very high, not on the King Tower, because what's going to happen is if the Skeletons don't spawn a ton in the back, the Dark Goblin will always step up into it, and that's something that you really have to look for if you're playing Graveyard against that card. It's such a great response. You got to get that poison down to make sure it steps up into it, so you can't play that poison early either.
So now coming up next, it's going to be TNT. 4 Tribe Gaming, a lifetime win rate in King of the Hill of 67%. 3 King of the Hill sweeps. And Andrew, take a look at this. In his last season with OG and Entis, 83% win rate in the King of the Hill.
Ooh, that's pretty good, I hear. 83% in King of the Hill. That's crazy. Giving Wings a run for his money. TNT going to come out. It's all about matchup in King of the Hill, right? It's one of those things where that's why so many people love or hate King of the Hill. Is if you come out and you have a horrible matchup, it's one and done, you're out. But that's where the analysts come in. That's where you have to look at your opponent, look at the person across from you, and look at what they've done in these situations before. You talk about a guy that's 83% in King of the Hill, becomes a lot harder to game that guy's strategy.
This is where that support staff earns their money, Andrew, so let's see who's getting paid today. TNT versus Samuel, game number 3, coming at you right now.
Oh, I expected nothing less out of this matchup, and I love it.
I just love that we got back here after those first 2 sets going to Tribe Gaming.
Yeah.
It really felt like, this could be disastrous for Spacestation, but great battle back from Lapo and RF to put us in the situation.
So here we go, just a bunch of leaked elixir both sides of the board. These guys happy to sit back and Samuel maybe running some Royal Giant. TNT maybe rocking a little bit of Graveyard.
This meta has been, oh, look at that. Very aggressive Royal Giant from Samuel to open up.
And Fireball going to clean up those dragons.
Yeah, he had the Fireball in hand. He kind of knew that those dragons were going to come out once he saw the Barb Hut and decided to go ahead and play that Royal Giant and bait them out and get some value.
Knowing he has the Hunter here, pretty confident in spending that extra elixir, but I'll be honest, it did feel like that Fireball might have been a slight overspend, so now you see he's behind by about 4 or 3 elixir.
We'll see if TNT chooses to press that advantage or not. So far looking like he's hanging back here. We'll see if he plays at 10.
Should try to get those skeletons in a Barb Hut down, I'd think.
Splits the skeletons here and does go for the Barb Hut.
And that's a very correct thing to do. Just, ride that elixir advantage, create the pressure where you can, and so Samuel has to go opposite lane pressure to make sure that TNT can't just double down with the Graveyard.
Yeah, 2 Royal Giants in single elixir, and you're going to have to wonder about that decision in the long run. Very, very aggressive play from the young ladder star here on the opening 2.
Yeah, very aggressive is a great way to put it. And, his defense have been pretty clean, but this Musketeer going to get a few shots in on that right-hand tower, and that was bound to happen eventually.
And now they're pretty evened up on elixir at this stage. Delivery down, Heal Spirit helping, but not on the Royal Giant. Will support this bridge battle, though.
Yeah, Hunter going to pull that Musketeer right into tower range. Or Fisherman, excuse me.
And this has been the game plan every single time here for Samuel. The moment he sees that Barb Hut come down, RG into the opposite lane.
Yeah, it's all about managing those barbs. They just, when they pile up, it makes it so easy to pull the trigger on a Graveyard, and that's the last thing that Sam needs right now, because here's the thing, if you look at Sam's defense for Graveyard, it's not great, right?
Yeah, you have the skeletons, the bats, but the bats can get poisoned off. The skeletons get poisoned off. At that point, you're left with the Hunter and the Log as your 2 best responses.
So here we go. Graveyard going to come down, Hunter up, and the skeletons on the back. Poison going to be able to hit all those units, and this is exactly what TNT wants.
Although a little lucky there for Samuel that the Hunter turned back towards the Graveyard after the Fisherman pulling the Knight in front of it. So works out well for him. Although notice also that the placement from TNT has not really given any Fireball value for those Skeleton Dragons, always playing them high enough so there's no tower damage as well.
Yeah, and that's a really, really smart play by TNT. Not only is he not giving tower damage, but he's also not giving other troop damage by playing them on top of things like a Musketeer or even just the Knight.
RG down again.
And
this time the Heal Spirit does leap and give some support to that Royal Giant.
Yeah, so that's a great adjustment there by Samuel. He goes, okay, he's going to play those Skeleton Dragons high and to the left every single time. I don't want to Fireball him. Let's use them then with that Heal Spirit and give my push a little bit more life.
And now second Royal Giant, Barb Hut not available. This is going to be a lot of damage here for Samuel on the left-hand side. Fireball in to make some more room. This is a huge chunk for Samuel.
That was massive. Log cleans up that Musketeer. Another unit has to come down here. No, does come down just in time, but RG in again.
High Barb Hut this time. Log does not touch it, does work on the barbs. And now Fireball cycling does get the Musketeer as well. Samuel in strong control with the final 35 seconds.
So here we go. Tanks across the river. Hunter down inside of that poison. Heal Spirit on the back end to try to jump and get some splash. Cannot play those skeletons. There they are, up high.
TNT, will he get the pressure on? Has to get up probably one more Graveyard here, but still has to defend against this Royal Giant. Is he going to play a Barb Hut with 15 seconds left? He does. That's going to be rough for him on the offensive side, trying to get back in. I don't know if TNT has enough.
No.
He's going to have to play a Desperation Graveyard here. It's not going to do enough, though.
Yeah.
There you have it. Samuel going to take game number 3 of this King of the Hill and give match point to Space Station Gaming.
Space Station Gaming has been battling all day long. They dropped the first 2 sets. They bounced back in sets 3 and 4, and now it's just been back and forth, except now Samuel, he takes down Azelis and TNT. It is all up to Jupiter King, who has no longer been playing perfect as of that 2-0 sweep from the God RF.
Tribe Gaming's coach Sean Kim calling a timeout, so they'll have an extra minute here to go over their choices and their decks and figure out what their plan's going to be. Jupiter King has to win 2 in a row now. Has to beat Samuel Basoto. Has to beat Lapakati. Or that's the end for Tribe Gaming's finals hopes.
And that is just one of the saddest things to see. That was the reference earlier on in the show, is talking about teams that go perfect in the regular season and then stumble once they get to playoffs. And right now is that defining moment here for Tribe Gaming. Will they be the squad that went perfect and then fell in their first playoff game? Or will they show that they have it and they're here for a reason? They are number one for a reason.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the moments from this last game. Samuel staying aggressive, doing a really great job with these Royal Giants, and once we got in the double and triple elixir, able to out-cycle the bar putt. And that's the big name of the game here, Andrew, out-cycling that bar putt and breaking through, getting on tower. And this was huge, these final moments. Samuel playing it perfect.
You know, and this is going to be a little weird, but I just got to give a shout out again to our dev team because I love the heel spirit. I love it. I love the interactions. I love the play. Everything about that card is so fun to watch, and it's fun to watch people defend against it, and it's fun to watch people like Sam take advantage of it. And that heel spirit did so much this game for one elixir time and time again at the bridge. So big, big kudos. Love the heel spirit, and so do the pros.
Yeah, that was a fun one for all of us to watch, and a big win for Samuel, right? We've been talking about that a lot today. Stumbled in the 1v1 set, but comes through in the most important moment, and now Samuel has a chance. And this is kind of reminiscent of when back in the day, Immortals won the North American Championship.
Right.
They went to their second King of the Hill player, who was not the top player out of their King of the Hill lineup, and that was Oh Yeah, who clutched up there and won the big one, had his big shining moment. Will Samuel do the same thing here for Spacestation Gaming?
Yeah, you know, Samuel doing a really great job of really high-pressure situations here. You know, once again, we are getting a little bit of... So much for bearing with us. Rich, are you there? I look like I'm in space.
I'm here, and I'm just ready for this next one. Looks like the timeout is over, so it's going to be Jupiter King against Samuel. And look, if I'm Tribe Gaming, who do I want in this position? I want Jupiter King. He did it for them in No Tilt League Special Edition. He's been so clutch throughout this season. We finally saw him lose a set and lose decisively against the God RF. But again, this is the man you want in this position, and Tribe Gaming has to feel as confident as they can down 2 games and having to win 2 in a row to keep their season alive.
I know. I wish I could just look. I wish I could either be a fly on the wall in the coaching room or just look into Jupiter King's mind right now. I don't know if he feels the pressure or not, because you look at a guy that's played so well, it's been so unstoppable, but to get dominated in a set in playoffs, does that really affect his mental fortitude, or is he ready to go here in King of the Hill, wants to prove that he's the best for a reason, and happy to close things out against Space Station Gaming?
Very, very excited for it, and here we go, getting ready for game number 4. Jupiter King versus Samuel. Tribe Gaming, Space Station Gaming, the most high-powered, biggest off-season roster moves of the season for Tribe Gaming. On the other side of it, Space Station going and grabbing up what was left from that Immortal squad, AC, RF, Lapo, and Trainer Luis going and restarting here with a new org. Can they make it to finals?
Here we go. Samuel, top of your screen for Space Station Gaming. Jupiter King, undefeated until earlier today at the bottom. To keep Tribe alive, he has to take out Samuel Basoto and then the Belarusian Lapakati.
So a lot of cycle here from Samuel, and there's no way this is 2.6. There's no way this is 2.6. Don't even think it for a second.
There you go.
And there you go. It's going to be Minor Muskaloon. Jupiter King looking like it might be the Ram Rider.
And Royal Hogs. Yeah, Royal Hogs going to come out. You see the Magic Archer there thinking maybe a little bit of Fireball bait. And Heel Spirit logged off this time. And that Magic Archer does not line up.
So this is interesting, Andrew, because this deck from Samuel used to run Bomb Tower, which has some advantages against the Royal Hogs that maybe that Goblin Cage doesn't possess.
That's a very, very solid point you make. Would be really nice to have that Bomb Tower right now, all that splash damage on those piggies, but Mega Knight going to work its way down the left-hand side. Maybe the single target DPS of the Brawler will be a better payoff as we get to these 5 minutes.
And there you see the Magic Archer dropped immediately, knowing that Goblin Cage was probably coming down against the Mega Knight, and gets a little bit of geometry there. A shot on the tower, Muskie and the Brawler.
Ooh, and look at that. High Goblin Cage to keep the Magic Archer alive. Musketeer somehow retargets. But I really like what Sam did there with dropping the Ice Golem after the cage pop to let the Goblin Brawler go to town on that Mega Knight, as opposed to tanking for the Mega Knight.
This is going to be a challenging one for Samuel in terms of trying to break through between the cage, the E-Wiz, and the Snowball. Gets one big shot here on the left-hand side, but this seems like it's going to be a challenging one against Jupiter.
Yeah, Sam's really got to take advantage of the quicker parts of his cycle, and he's got to be okay to change lanes, and there you go. You see it already. The Musketeer cycled in the back right-hand side, even though that's the healthier tower.
And here we go. Big push on that right-hand lane. Miner up high. The Bandit will get a dash on the Miner. And look at that perfect defense from Jupiter King against the Balloon.
And a lot coming across the river here for Jupiter King. One very healthy Brawler, healthy E-Wiz, and a healthy Magic Archer. Royal Hogs come down left-hand side.
And with the E-Wiz on the right-hand side, it's pick your poison right now for Samuel. Tons of damage coming in both lanes. Bandit gonna dash to the Miner as well. Tower down under 1,000 HP on the left-hand side. 1117 on the right. Samuel in tons of trouble.
And look at that. Jupiter King looking for that Ice Golem. Sam logs the Magic Archer away. It only gets one piercing shot through, but a big shot it was.
Cage down, Musketeer low. Skeleton's trying to prevent a little extra damage. Opportunistic Heal Spirit does not get extra damage there for Jupiter on the left-hand side. We're in sudden death overtime. Samuel fighting for his life.
Yeah, and here we go. Jupiter King gonna double down on defense right-hand side here. Bandit will be enough on the left to just take a little bit of damage. Those cards stacked on top of each other because he doesn't have to worry about a big spell here from Samuel.
That was the right idea from Samuel, trying to find some way to deal with the Electro Wizard. But look at the amount of protection that Jupiter King gave to the Wizard between the Snowball, the Heal Spirit keeping it alive. Brilliant job by Jupiter King to know what Samuel wanted to do to break through and preventing that from happening.
Exactly. Jupiter King knows the most important card for every single one of those defensive sequences is going to be his E-Wiz, just because of that stun and, of course, that single target damage. So, as he said, doing the utmost to protect it, and it really paying off.
Good defensive Miner here from Samuel to prevent any sort of leaps coming in from that Mega Knight. Log to help, and just trying to hold the line here on the left-hand side and win this bridge fight is the Space Station player.
One more piercing shot from that Magic Archer brings that tower down to 523 HP. Anytime an Ice Golem is played high by Samuel, Jupiter King capitalizes with a Magic Archer.
And this time, Miner goes into the safe spot. Nothing for the high E-Wiz. Getting some chip here. Magic Archer does go to the E-Wiz, and Samuel's going to be back to a balloon here in a second. He might go second balloon on the right.
He may. Miner's still there. There's the second balloon you're talking about. Musketeer crossing the river to tank for the balloon. Balloon going on through. There's nothing there, Rich.
Oh, my word. That
There's
balloon is so very close.
Bomb. Death damage is going to come in.
Trying to make some more room.
It's there. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my word. Samuel gets through. Takes it with the hard cycle in triple elixir. Space Station Gaming is going to finals.
They eliminate Tribe on an incredible performance from their sophomore. That balloon just floating in the air for what felt like an eternity. And the bomb drops with a split second left. Adios Tribe, Space Station Gaming going to the finals.
If you're looking for a signature moment for Samuel, this is it. King of the Hill sweep for the young man to secure a spot in finals for his team.
What an outstanding performance, taking down Azealis, TNT, and then, of course, Jupiter King himself. Space Station Gaming pulls off the reverse 3, 4, and 5 set sweep over an incredible Tribe squad that started off today at 4-2 in games and 2-0 in sets. Wow, that is a heartbreaker.
Yeah, such a huge performance here overall for Space Station Gaming and for Samuel in particular, especially after dropping that 1v1 set to come back here and to be so far behind. Jupiter King really seemed like he had it all locked down for a long time, but this is that sequence on the right. This first balloon, he doesn't expect it to connect.
Yeah.
What he's thinking about is getting back around to that second one.
Yeah, and he talked about how much that E-Wiz disrupts these balloon pushes. So what does he do? Instead, he goes Musketeer right behind the balloon, knowing that that Electro Wizard is going to come down to defend, has to cycle all the way back around, but also how lucky. Look at the health. Look at the health. Look at the time. It's focused. The Princess Tower is shooting the balloon. It literally 1 HP for the win.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wild performance. And you got to be so happy for these guys after having some struggles, winning the North American Championship when in the Immortals jersey and then getting the kind of limping into third place during the spring season, not making it to the World Finals, having a rough outing in the fall season, and now with a new jersey, new logo, new name, but same great performance. Spacestation Gaming, AC, RF, Lapacati, Samuel, and trainer Luis are your first finalists for this 2020 spring season.
How's your fantasy doing at home, guys? Did you expect that? Did you expect that upset? That's exactly what it is, and it feels crazy to say that Spacestation Gaming is the team to upset any squad because of how stacked they are, but you know what? Tribe, perfect on the season, not able to close it off here in playoffs. Going to take a seat for the rest of the season, and this is a big moment for Spacestation. You talked about all those things they've done in the past. I still think a lot about them as Immortals in 2018 at World Finals and how disappointed they were after that opening against Ponos. Right now, years of experience under their belts as players and as a coach. This is a huge moment for Spacestation, Luis, and these 4 gentlemen. I'm so happy for what they did today, and what a great match for all of us to watch at home, dude. That was crazy.
That was wild. That was absolutely wild, and I had so much fun with it. Going all the way back, think about that the game against Expo that we saw RF play, which was absolutely brilliant, and then this performance from Samuel. Putting those two things together, just a really gritty performance here from Spacestation. Every single set was an elimination set, and you got to feel for Tribe Gaming here, falling short again and being so close, looking completely unbeatable, and then having 3 match point sets and not able to close it out. Just a rough one there for the guys in red, but now Spacestation gets to sit back and watch our second match of the day to see who they face in the final.
On to Samuel Basoto as long as you did, and having as much faith in this young ladder star as you've had, it really pays off here in the playoffs. CRL West 2020, Spacestation Gaming is a finalist.
So now we're going to go into our second match after a short break, and I know I'm pumped about this one. It's going to be SK Gaming against Misfits. We're either going to have a team where no one has been to the finals before, or we're going to have a team who's trying to recapture and be a repeat champion here in CRL West. We'll be back with match number 2 and 5.
Welcome back to the top 5 plays of the best Tower Rush esport in the world. We're going over the highlights of CRL 2020, week number 5. Click subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already, because this week was all about teams clawing their way into the playoffs. First off, let's acknowledge Jupiter King is a near-perfect player. Despite being so close to losing his first set ever in CRL, he's able to clutch this victory by distracting Xpedro 15's Inferno Tower with not only the Ice Golem, but the Miner. This allows his balloon to get the massive damage it needs to send him into the last match of the set, which he wins. In this play between Ruben and Dip, we see Ruben executing the massive double lane elixir golem push of nightmares. In the last 30 seconds of the game, Ruben takes out Dip's entire tower from full HP. Up next, Morin, showing why he's a CRL West champion, sweeps Surge TS. In this play, Morin takes advantage of the fact that Surge TS cycled his Royal Delivery and achieves major value from his bats. This one bat gets at least a few hundred damage for free. At the same time, he has his Miner tank for the Prince, which allows the Prince to land 2 crucial swings. In this 2v2 match between SK Gaming and Pain Gaming, Sam and Hobby14 are barely hanging on to their tower. Pain Gaming can seal the match and take the tower with just another zap and arrow cycle. SK Gaming doesn't give them the opportunity, however, and they decide to pile it on for one last push. One last freeze, and SK Gaming steals the 2v2 set with only a second left in the match. Every single match of Lindsay versus Igor was incredibly close. Igor ends up edging victory, but their second match was insane. Igor has a considerable lead with less than 20 seconds of overtime left. Igor decides to play a high 3 Musketeers, and Lindsay immediately fireball zaps him for a positive 3 elixir exchange. Lindsay then cycles like a madman and is able to fireball zap Igor's tower one last time, winning the match by 22 HP. These matches really show how amazing this game can get at the highest level. With so much at stake, Which team will show that they deserve the CRL 2020 crown? Put your bets in now. Even more legendary top 5 plays are sure to be coming soon.
There's nothing like a best of 5, and we've seen that so far in these playoffs. Twice now, going into King of the Hill. Deep gameplay. We just saw Spacestation Gaming clutch up with the super reverse sweep. Well, guess who did something similar yesterday? That's right, it was Morten for SK Gaming, coming out in King of the Hill, getting the 1-2-3 reverse sweep and saving his team's season. But now SK has a very difficult out in front of them. The new, the improved, the phenomenal Misfits Gaming that has made a bunch of roster changes in the offseason, and Andrew, it has paid off in spades.
Oh, I could not agree more. Let's start with King of the Hill because you were just talking about it. Morten had a great performance the other day, but you know who else is great in King of the Hill? Wings. He's 4-0 on the season, and we've talked about him for season after season after season in that set. I'm sure he'll be in the 1v1 as well. I'm very excited to see that young man play today. The other side of it, Air Surfer. In his last 2 appearances in head-to-head, he's gone 6-1, or 6-0, excuse me. 2 sweeps, or 6-1 because of the King of the Hill. 2 sweeps in the 1v1, and then a 2-1 in King of the Hill. So a guy that we were a little worried about being able to find his footing on the main stage has done exactly what we hoped for online. He's found his confidence, and he has been dominating right where they need him to be. Now, obviously, he played in the 2v2 in their last set because they were happy to give away the win, already securing the first spot. But this is a huge day for a team that has really struggled to get and succeed in playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the big question here is going to be how does the 2v2 compare to what's probably going to be Sam and Morten back together again now that you can guarantee Morten a spot in one of the 1v1 sets. Razor and Dip have been good. They've had their moments. They've also had their misplays. And, you know, Dippets has publicly claimed the mistakes that he's made, but it's an excellent pairing, and it seems like they're having a lot of fun today. So I think a big question for this opening is, can Misfits Gaming, can Razor and Dip give their 2 other 1v1 players some cushion to take the pressure off as we go into those later sets?
And I think that cushion is really, really important because on paper, it does feel like SK might have a slight advantage when it comes to head-to-head play. But here we are, Misfits Gaming with the first round bye going 3-1 on the season. Air Surfer, Dippets, Trainer Dippets, Dip, whatever you want to call him, Razor and Wings, the all-star lineup here from Misfits who have an incredible season. They've gone to King of the Hill twice, but in those King of the Hills, you know, Air Surfer and Wings have brought it home very, very easily, whether it was against Pain or against SK, who was their match opening.
And on the other side, you have SK Gaming, the defending Western champions, looking to make a repeat of it. Morten and Sam, the 2v2 duo. Sergio Ramos, the CCGS World Champion, and Javi Catorze, who's been forced to carry so many times in the past, now with a team that everyone can come out and get big-time hits. This is a dangerous roster, and Andrew, if I'm Spacestation Gaming, I'm really not sure which one of these 2 I want to face in the finals.
Yeah, you know, that's a really strong point you make, and maybe just because of experience you lean towards Misfits, but with what everyone on that squad has done, I agree. It's a coin toss there. I'm sure Space Station Gaming is going to have their hands full regardless. Here we go. Misfits coming out with Razor and Dip with the Band of Tornado. SK Gaming, Morten and Sam. So this is right back to match day 1 for these guys where Razor and Dip beat Morten and Sam 2-1. Except for this time we got 1 Band of Tornado, 1 Band of Giant Skeleton, which means we will most definitely see some bait in this set.
Let's go ahead and jump into game number 1 of the 2v2. Sam and Morten for SK Gaming at the top of your screen. Misfits, Razor, and Dip at the bottom.
This is match 2 of our semifinals.
Morten and Sam have really been the 2v2 duo for SK Gaming since Sam joined them in the 2019 season after his time or actually since after his time over with TSM, and they've just been an inseparable duo. They're not just a good teammates, they're very good friends, and you can tell how much they enjoy playing Clash Royale.
Yeah, and what I really love about this squad in SK is what they did in matches 3 and 4 this season. You know, you talk about Sam and Morten being together for as long as you can remember, and that's totally true, but for some reason at the beginning of the season, it just wasn't working. And the ability to adjust, nice zap there, the ability to adjust and move Morten into 1v1, Javi into 2v2, and pick up those 2 wins in a row is one of the most impressive things about SK Gaming.
Giants are going to be Skeleton Barrel, Miner for Razor and Dip, and so far has a lot of pieces of balloon coming out from Morton and Sam. First minute and a half passing by, and not a ton of damage either way. SK slightly behind Razor and Dip, and here you go. Miner, Lumberjack, Balloon, and they're the Royal Recruits.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that earlier today. There they are once again with the increase in Fishermen. The Recruits are back in 2v2.
It's interesting to note here, Andrew, is this is not a situation, though, where their opponents appear to be running Fishermen. So you pull it out specifically most likely for one card and turns out not to be there.
Yeah, and if you guys remember, increase in Poison, increase in Meganite, decrease in P.E.K.K.A., increase in Mini P.E.K.K.A., all these things kind of happened when the Royal Recruits surged into the 2v2 meta. So we'll see over this match, and then, of course, next week, what happens.
Lumberloon push left-hand side. Miner goes to the back, not to the Musketeer, so Muskie will get plenty of damage on that Balloon, but a Heal Spirit rages it up. Balloon will get death damage. No, a nice clutch snowball. No, doesn't save it. Death damage comes in for Sam and Morton down to 899 left-hand side. They take back the lead.
Yeah, and that death damage was absolutely huge. They're 899 remaining. Miner goes to the top right-hand side to even things up and actually give the lead back to Misfits Trainer Dip and Razor.
Notice how aggressive they've been with these recruits, playing them very high every time.
Oh.
Double balloon push left-hand side. Lumberjack in. Miner goes to the Musketeer in front. I don't think there's any way to stop this. The question now is, can Razor and Dip get that damage back on the right-hand side? 123. They got to throw at least one more spell in there.
Logs
Log
in!
will just send us into a two-tower game.
I'm shocked that they just allowed that Lumberjack to run right on through to the left-hand side and get those hits in on the tower, but the double balloon drop, maybe they recognized that there was no way to stop it. Get that damage on the left-hand side and stay in this game was the idea for Misfits.
Well, you know, maybe they felt like, hey, we have the damage lead on the left-hand side, as you can see, and they knew they could force a two-tower game. Why not do it when you know you currently are ahead in two towers?
Yeah, and you talk about Miner, Poison. That kind of play here is going to succeed in a two-tower game. It's going to be very hard to pick up every single one of those Miners. Plus, when you throw in a Miner plus Poison, it becomes even more exponential damage.
A lot of value for the Heal Spirits for SK Gaming so far. They did a good job of playing them opportunistically. This one doesn't do it, though.
And a very nice rocket to clean up everything on the bottom of the map. I didn't think that they were going to have a response to the two Lumberjacks and the Balloon, but the rocket comes out just in time.
Miner comes in, Poison getting some chip damage left-hand side. Right now, Razor and Dip in a good spot here. They can pretty easily cycle this out, have to play against this one big defensive push. If they can defend this, they should have it locked, but the big question is, can they defend it?
Snowball's in, freezes in, Rocket's not back in cycle, it's not going to get there in time. Bats are there, Balloon drop.
Oh my god, they steal it by 144!
What a play! The Rocket, the 4-second flight gets there in the nick of time. Razor and Dip start off with the win here against the Germans that they took down in match number 1.
Oh my word. Andrew, we need to go back and look at that finish about 50 times because it really felt like there was not going to be enough time for them to beat it. There's under 200 HP on that left-hand tower. There's 2 balloons. I believe there's some bats, maybe a Musketeer, maybe a Volkswagen and a neutron bomb. All drop it on that King Tower. I have no idea how they were able to survive and get that rocket down fast
And
enough.
I love the plays. I love the decision-making. They go Snowball on defense to give themselves a half a second of breathing room. Rocket hits just in time as opposed to going Rocket defensively, hoping you are able to clean up enough and hoping you stay alive. Guaranteed plays is something we've said a lot this weekend. That was a guaranteed W, but my lord, did they cut it close.
And man, if you had Morton and Sam on your fantasy team, that's got to be frustrating, getting 2 crowns instead of 6 out of that game. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these moments. And this was the end of regulation where you see that Razor and Dip, they know that right-hand tower, and this is part of what we didn't know, Andrew, because we hadn't seen it yet. They had the rocket.
Yeah.
So no matter what the situation was, they knew they were going to get that right-hand tower down, and spending too much on the left was not a good idea, so great play from them. And here's this insane finish.
Yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. The double balloon drop, Lumberjack Brawler plus Bats and Skellies. Log comes in to clean up that Goblin cage, and you're wondering how on earth is this 4 seconds? Somehow it is. The balloon drop does come in. 144 HP is nothing. It's 2 Bat Bites. It's 1 punch from the Brawler. It's a balloon death bomb. It's another spell. but it's not enough, and it's not in time. Misfits, Dip, and Razor come out with a big, big win over our former West champions.
I mean, what else is that? It's a stiff breeze. It's a spilled glass of water. It's a thought. Yeah. I mean, that's how close it just came in that game number 1. This is CRL playoffs. I am loving it. Hope you're loving it at home, too. And if you haven't, by the way, yet, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. What are you doing? This is the kind of Clash Royale we're bringing. You don't want to miss a finals next weekend. Hit that subscribe button. And, man, I'm so pumped for game number 2. This is how we start off this semifinal. Andrew, I'm going crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a crazy day. We've had 2, as you said, 2 of our matches have already gone to the 5th and final set. Is it going to happen again today? Well, we don't know. SK's got to put something together. How is Sergio Ramos going to play if he does play in the 1v1? All that to be told after this 2v2 set.
Woo! Game number 2. It's only game 2.
I know.
By the way.
I know. I'm sweating.
Here we go. Sam and Morton again, top of your screen. Razor and Dip at the bottom. Bands are still on the screen. You can see Tornado and Giant Skeleton. And this time, Sam and Morton choose to go to the skies, opening up with Lava Hound in the corner.
Yeah, you know, Lava Hound is one of the archetypes that struggles the most with Giant Skeleton because the lava will always make its way on through and everything else gets stopped at the river and killed by that Giant Death Bomb. So here we go, going to something that we saw very similar to Spacestation Gaming in game number 1. It's going to be this Lava Lightning Dragon deck from SK.
And you see the Lightning taking care of the Musketeer as well as hurting that Barbarian Hut. Gets some good value. 1867 on the right-hand side. SK so far not damaged. Double Baby Dragons. Graveyard push coming in.
Graveyard in. Easy poison to clean things up with that high Inferno Dragon. Inferno Dragon's going to get tanked for by this Brawler as it crosses the river.
Heal Spirit to give that Inferno Dragon and Brawler a little bit of extra life.
Yeah.
So gonna force out, for 1 Elixir, force out some more responses here from Misfits.
Here we should go. Should get just a little bit of sizzle on one of these barbs, but does a great job, Misfits, in protecting and preserving the health of their Barbarian Hut.
Yeah, 1 Elixir to preserve from SK, and then 1 Elixir in response from the Skeletons. So a little trickery kind of coming in from Morton and Sam, easily dealt with by Razor and Dip.
So here we go, Razor and Dip back on the offense. Left-hand side now this time. No poison in cycle, so should get a little bit of damage from these Skeletons.
Baby Dragon, Goblin Hut up to the task. 2132 left-hand side. 10 seconds away from double Elixir time, and so far it is SK Gaming with a not insignificant lead here. 1597 on the right-hand side at 2132.
Yeah, you know, the Lava Hounds just keep kind of hanging out on those towers, and maybe needing to focus a little bit more DPS on them is going to be Razor and Dip, because you know they're going to be more supported here in double Elixir.
Sam and Morton are both long-time playoff standouts, and you know, you go to Morton's side with SK Gaming, 2nd place in CRL EU, 2nd place in the West in 2019, a Liquid 1st place in the fall season. Sam also has a pretty strong playoff record, of course, those 2 SK seasons, but don't forget Season 1 coming halfway through late to TSM, where he, Vulcan, Firewolf, and Air Surfer all went down to got to number 3 in the North American region.
Yeah, that was an incredible performance by Sam. That's where we coined the nickname the Mad Scientist, because the decks that he was running that season kind of blew our mind. So here we go, Lava Hound again, bottom right-hand side of your screen. This has kind of been the story of the day. It's just Lava Hound hanging out on the tower, gets support from the Lightning. Miner in on the tower. There's no way to defend all this, it appears, from SK Gaming, but a Royal Delivery has something to say.
Yeah, the freeze, that's one of those defensive freezes that worked out really, really well, although you have almost wireless. Still some more connection issues over for you. SK Gaming is calling a timeout here to prepare for game number 3. It's rare you see a timeout used this early in a match, but SK going ahead and want to take an extra minute to work on deck construction against Razor and Dip.
Yeah, and I like that Sam called it out too. It feels like a player calling a timeout because he needs to focus in on something. Coach didn't even know it was going to come. But here are the numbers for it. We're going to hop into the replay in just a second. We saw that defensive freeze really pay off once here for Dip and Razor, but just not enough to close things out. So this is going to be some of the final moments of the game. And, you know, just look at the way that Sam and Morton dealt with the defense time and time again. Yeah,
it was just very difficult for Razor and Dip to break through, and part of that was that they had to overspend a lot on defense based on the matchup, right? They didn't really have much in the way of a good response to the Lava Hound, so they had to really put a lot of effort on defense and never really had the juice to turn it into the offensive side of the board. leaving Sam and Morton completely in control throughout that entire game.
You know, and what's been really interesting is the Lightning play today. It's as if it just came back and resurged into the 2v2 meta as of this morning, and I'm wondering if a lot of that has to do with Baby Dragons and Musketeers. It does feel like Musketeers and Baby Dragons are showing up so much in 2v2. Those are great cards to clean up, help with cleaning up the Baby Dragon, take the Musketeer off the board, and get that damage on tower. And the other part of it, the other thing about that Lightning is it's a shocker, right? You play the Musketeer Baby Dragon, you think you got defense cleaned up, that elixir comes in, all of a sudden your tower is getting tanked on by your opponent.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, it's almost like the meta is kind of a zeitgeist, right? So no one's doing something, and then someone does it, and everyone goes, oh yeah, that's a thing that you can do. And then the Lightning kind of pops back in, and we'll see if now that Misfits has broken the seal on recruits, if people start going like, oh yeah, you know what, the recruits are pretty good right now, given what we're seeing in the meta. So
and then we'll see.
Who knows? We'll see how it goes, but
I was going to say, then we'll see less Lightning and more Poison again, right? So it is fascinating to watch it kind of adjust and evolve based off of what you said. Someone's like, I'm going to try this out. Everyone goes, holy crap, that works. When you talk about Lumberjack and Rage, that's one of mine and your favorite moments in Clash Royale competitive history is goes, WCG, they go, well, why not we just do it for 2 elixir less? We don't sacrifice a unit, and we can put it wherever we want. I know.
Yeah, that's how the meta works, and the timeout is over, and now we're going to be getting ready for game number 3. Razor and Dip have acquitted themselves well here. They had a good performance in game number 1, just got completely outmatched in game number 2. Really didn't have anything that could play in that situation that would have done a better job there in terms of that matchup. So here we go, game number 3. We'll see which analyst earns their money and which players can come out on top. Is it the longtime duo, the brothers, if you will, of Sam and Morton, or is it going to be Razor and Dip, a duo that started from scratch with this season and so far has been fairly impressive?
Yeah, I mean, they're holding their own against Sam and Morton, and, you know, that first game looked like they barely squeezed by and stole it, but, you know, as we talked about in the postgame, they had that rocket, they were very confident in their ability to get on tower for cheap, take it down, and here in game number 2, they did get a little overwhelmed, so game number 3, all on the line for these 2v2 squads. SK Gaming, of course, top of your screen, Misfits, bottom of your screen.
Heal Spirit cycles to the right-hand side to open things up, and Barb Hut down for Razor and Dip. It's interesting to see the Barb Hut really wasn't around much until very, very recently. You know, it had its heyday when all the huts and the barbs in particular were a little bit stronger, and now it seems to be coming back.
Yeah, there was a moment there with the Elixir Golem, but then it kind of stopped, and then here it is, just supporting a lot of graveyards usually.
And there you go, Graveyard in early and fast from Misfits. And they're going to get a good chunk here between that Baby Dragon and the Graveyard and the Poison.
Yeah, that is a lot.
They're going to get a lot of value.
A lot of value, 0 counter push, 1,500 damage in. Great opening for Misfits.
And still pretty even, ahead by 2 elixir overall on HP, it seems. You can see the hand of Razor there is currently at 7 compared to everybody else, now at 8. So about elixir and a half advantage. So they go aggressive, take a huge chunk out to open up, and still come out slightly ahead on elixir.
So funny, when you said you could see the hand of Razor there, I had PTSD of hands going up during technical issues, or when players would dispute something, and I looked at my screen for it, and I was like, no, Drew, calm down.
Here we go, Dark Prince picked up by the Lumberjack, opposite direction, 2 Baby Dragons down for SK Gaming. Heal Spirit will give that Lumberjack some extra life, and this is a nice counter push coming out. Royal Giant with 2 Baby Dragons behind. Is there enough for the Lightning, and will they play it?
Yeah, that double Baby Dragon raged up, does so much damage. The Lightning does come in, RG gets a couple shots in, and Sam and Morton even things up just a bit, and they have the healthier Baby Dragon taking for the weaker, so it must be responded to.
Dark Prince comes out, 1265 to 1049, a little bit over 200 HP, separating these two as we go into double elixir time. This has been a back and forth haymaker kind of battle.
Yeah, and you know, Sam and Morton have been doing a very good job of dealing with these graveyards in the sense of not having the spell power, but having the unit splash damage to deal with it. But the problem is it's never guaranteed, and those Baby Dragons aren't going to hit those 100% of skeletons every time.
Lumberjack gets across. Heal Spirit for the Baby Dragons will keep them all alive a little bit longer. And
that's a lot of health that those Baby Dragons recover, and they are basically back to 100%. Another Lightning comes in, and Misfits, Razor, and Dip are just painted in a horrible corner that they cannot seem to get out of.
need to find some way to deal with this aerial attack, but they can't seem to keep their aerial defense cards. I mean, it's Baby Dragon and Musketeer and the Mega Minion. They can't seem to keep them on the board right now. Notice we still haven't seen 3 of the cards out of Razor and Dip. There we go. So Dip does play his Graveyard now, hoping to steal this one. But the Skelly Dragons get some splash damage on tower. That should be it here.
The freeze is in! The freeze is in! 66 damage remains. Wow, that for a second looked like SK might slip through their fingers.
Wow. Wow, that got so close. Yes, that freeze came in, and all it takes is one Graveyard freeze. Razor and Dip, though, not able to get past. And it was those Skelly Dragons at the end, Andrew. They were not able to keep the splash damage off. If they kept that splash damage from those Skeleton Dragons off the tower in that final sequence, Razor and Dip might have been in a position to win this one. But instead, they got into log range. Sam and Morton just had to focus on defense, everything they could, throw one log down. GG, well played, set number 1 to SK.
Well, what I think was so cool that you were pointing out during that game was they were having such difficulty dealing with the aerial assault, right? Because those Musketeers and Baby Dragons, when they came down, they only had 1 Musketeer and 2 Baby Dragons and Mega Minion. All of that is great lightning and fireball value. So every single time Morton and Sam would go back to the skies, they didn't even play the Royal Giant at the end. They didn't need to because the RG was actually easier to stop than just Baby Dragons and Skelly Dragons. A beautiful adjustment there by Sam and Morton to just kind of spell cycle them out and keep the battle in the skies.
Here we go, taking a look at some of those final moments, and watch these Skeleton Dragons. And again, they're going offensive. The snowball there, and look at that. If they'd snowballed on the Skeleton Dragons to push them back a little bit, that damage doesn't get in, and we might be in a different situation. Now, obviously, the snowball not on offense means maybe that same Graveyard doesn't do the same damage on that side. But, you know, you can't win a game if you lose your tower first. So the snowball going offensively doesn't do much for them. Skeleton Dragons end up being the MVP for SK Gaming, and that gives the Germans a nice win and an advantage for their squad going into set number 2.
Yeah, so now it comes into that 1v1 conversation. You know, yesterday Sergio Ramos got 0-2'd, Sam got 0-2'd, Morton came out and got, you know, he played very, very well. He started off at 2-0, but there were other things that happened in between that. You know, I talked about Sam and Sergio getting 0-2'd early on. Well, what happened was Javi and Sam came out again, and they both got beaten in their first appearance in King of the Hills. So, you know, SK Gaming, a squad that has kind of been notoriously strong in head-to-head and in 2v2, just kind of a very well-rounded team, seems like 1v1 is where they've started to struggle.
Yeah, they had some difficulties in that set, but... Again, there's one guy who you can lean on significantly. 7-0 yesterday, and now losing one game here. So far in his playoff campaign, 9-1 overall in sets, or overall in games. Pretty crazy playoff run here for Morton.
Yeah, and you know, Wings, when we looked at him get that sweep earlier in the season over SK Gaming, he was the first man out. I'm curious if they're going to do that once again, because when we have seen Wings play well in King of the Hill, he does like to be earlier in the lineup. It doesn't have to be first, doesn't have to be last, but he just seems to like to be earlier on. So here we go. Misfits is going to come out with Wings. SK Gaming is going to come out with Sam, and you know what, Rich? This is the exact same matchup we saw in their first match.
Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Sam versus Wings. Gonna have OP Sam top of your screen, Wings at the bottom. Gotta love this best of 5 format. Get to see so many fun matchups.
Yeah, that's really what it is. You know, you did a great job of putting together BO5s that weren't at CRL, but now with this BO5 format here in playoffs, it's just so great to see some of these matchups that you would never see in the regular season.
Yeah, talking about Sam, has only played one 1v1 set since his opening season with TSM. You know, hasn't been in the 1v1 very often overall throughout his CRL career since that time with TSM. Wings as well hasn't played in a 1v1 set since the 2019 spring season. So it's fun to see these guys come out for a BO3.
So it looks like Wings here going Goblin Giant Double Prince with a little bit of bait.
Well, we'll see if what kind of spell situation he has coming out. And on the other side of it, Sam, you see the Valk, you see the Archers, you see the Inferno Dragon. Have an idea he might be going something that's rising up from the dead, potentially.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Seems a little crazy. So there you go.
There you go. Graveyard does come out.
Well-placed Dark Prince just in front of that tower to prevent the splash damage from the Valkyrie, and close enough to turn around immediately and help out with these skeletons. So really nice play there by Wings, very efficient play.
Final 15 seconds of single elixir time, and no one's done any significant damage. Snowball will not prevent that connection. 21-22 to the left-hand side, and with that, Wings has the lead as we go into double.
Yeah, Sam had to pull the trigger on that snowball there, knowing he's going to take a little bit of damage, but couldn't commit more elixir because he was already down a couple.
Wings started his CRL career with Cloud9 and CRL North America with a team that had high hopes, but wasn't quite able to meet them, and then has been with Misfits, and they've struggled. You know, throughout that career with Misfits, that Cloud9 team, most of it kind of moved along to this new roster, but it seems finally that Wings is surrounded by a team that is motivated, has a great outlook on the game, and this is his first real shot at making his way deep into the playoffs and potentially into the finals.
Yeah, and you know, it's really also about a team that surrounded him with people that let him succeed. You know, it felt like he was having to do too much in the past in his prior squads, and almost too much was placed on his shoulders when, you know, it's clear that Wings is a great King of the Hill player, and there's going to be King of the Hill sets. Let's let him succeed there.
Dark Prince connects again. That's been the big winner here for Wings so far in this 1v1 game. We're going to sudden death overtime. And so far, the offense has been all Wings. Sam has really not done much since that opening graveyard.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of cheap bait cards here in response for Wings, whether it's the Goblin Gang right on top of the tower, the Spear Goblins low, the Bats high, or just the Zap plus Dark Prince like we saw in the first time that Sam pulled down the graveyard.
Well, it's hard for Sam to stack up defense because, you know, your big DPS is the Inferno Dragon and the Archers, but you put those two together on defense, and as we saw a moment ago, that's a lot of Fireball value.
So here we go. Spear Goblins high, Goblin Gang low, Prince on top of the tower. But those skeletons are getting tanked for, so Zap has to come down, and a decent amount of damage comes in for Sam.
And there you go. Fireball to make room for that Prince. Skeletons come high. Zap not able to predict those, so good job by Sam to set the line here against Wings, who is second all-time in Grand Challenge wins. Last count I saw was 538, but I don't know if he's added a few more since then.
You know, and the other thing about those skeletons that Sam has is he's been using them so great every single time to soak up the charge from this Prince because he knows that the Zap needs to be preserved by his opponent to defend against graveyards.
Valk high, some Fireball value there behind the Valkyrie, and there you go again. Fireball on the Inferno Dragon and the Archers. Full-on Graveyard Poison push the opposite direction. A bit of a foot race here. Those Bats are being tanked for by the Goblin Giant. That's a ton amount of damage.
I mean, that's exactly what we were talking about yesterday. Now the Goblin's going to go right on through. Wings is going to continue doing what he does in King of the Hill, and that is why you said it yesterday. A lot of pros out there talking about the Bats needing to be nerfed. Well, you saw why right there. If anything is taken for him for even a second, hundreds, thousands of damage can be done, and Wings continues his reign of terror here in this season. Spring 2020, Wings, 5-0, King of the Hill. Just a couple numbers to throw out your way.
Yeah, he's been great in King of the Hill, and now here with a big 1v1 win as well in this second set. Phenomenal play here in head-to-head, and this is what Wings does, especially when he has the good support around him. So Misfits has to be really happy overall. I mean, even with losing that 2v2 set, Wings is playing well. Wings is playing confidently. You know you still have Air Surfer and Razzer for your other 1v1 sets. And, you know, if they can get this thing to King of the Hill, this is anyone's bet.
Yeah, it was just really, really tough for Sam, like you said, to create any sort of offense, any sort of tank to cross that river. And, you know, Wings did a great job every time you see this. Goblins low, Spear Goblins high. That way it's not able to get a poison on everything. If you were going to take both of those groups off the board, you have to spend a poison and a snowball, and then you wonder what you have on defense, and that's exactly what Wings recognized here. He saw the poison, he saw the snowball, and he goes all out on offense, gets that second Goblet Giant down. GG, well played, Bats on through.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so hard for Sam here with, you know, trying to put some sort of DPS on those big beefy pushes coming through. But every time what's happening is those Archers are standing right next to that Inferno Dragon. And you saw how many times did the Fireball hit Archer's Tower or Archer's Inferno Dragon?
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been 5 or 6 times throughout that entire set, maybe more. I didn't keep account. But, you know, when that's your situation, you're not able to spread them out as well as you would like. That's going to be a hard defense for you to pull off against that big, beefy double Prince deck.
Well, in between the Spear Goblins, the Goblin Gang, the Bats, it becomes near impossible for that Inferno Dragon to lock on what it wants to once it finally does get across the river. I mean, even when we saw Wings Prince cross the bridge for the very first time early in the game, he just supported it with Bats, and then you saw Sam kind of have to double down on defense because his Inferno Dragon could do basically nothing. So really, really well played there by Wings, and yeah, thank you for correcting me. He's 5-0 in head-to-head. He's 4-0 in King of the Hill, and now 1-0 in the 1v1 set, which is really what you want out of this guy. You know, you said it earlier, surrounding himself with a better team and a team that helps him succeed. Not better in general, but maybe better for him.
Well, that's a big shift here to talk about that for Wings, and there's a reason why that distinction is important, Andrew, because career-wise in King of the Hill, Wings is one of the best. He's the winningest player in King of the Hill and CRL. No one has put the number of wins he's put in that set. In 1v1, lifetime win rate coming into today of 27%. Yeah. He has not done well in these BO3s. He's been firing King of the Hill. So if you can get Wings clicking in 1v1 sets, sky's the limit for Misfits.
Totally, and if you're playing BO5s, which is what it seems like it's going to be in playoffs, and you're able to get one set from Wings in 1v1, and then he's available in King of the Hill, which is always going to be the case, that is one of the reasons why we look at this Misfits roster. Exactly, dude. It's money. It's straight up money, because you've got Air Surfer, Razor, and Wings as your King of the Hill players, as your 1v1 guys, and Dip goes out there and does what he does analysis-wise and 2v2 partner-wise, and that's why Misfits has been so successful.
Let's go ahead and jump into game number 2. Wings with the advantage, up 1 here against OP Sam. Now keep in mind, we're talking about this overall matchup, Andrew. You talk about those 4 King of the Hill wins. 3 of those came in a King of the Hill sweep over SK Gaming this season.
Yes, sir, it sure did. Sam, Javi, and Morton fell in that order. What is this? They've got a Goblin Barrel and a Skeleton Barrel and a...
Yeah, I don't know.
What on earth?
This is crazy. Miner running with this really strong defensive combination of the Goblin Cage and the Royal Delivery, and there was a minute there where this was the defensive combo in the game. Yeah. These two just locking things down. We haven't seen as much of it lately, but it still is very powerful.
Wings there does a great job of recognizing that he's going to have to spend just a little bit more than he'd like, and now he's going to turn that push into some offense because of that Skeleton Barrel.
And this deck does have a good number of options here for Sam in terms of playing defense. You can play the log on the Goblin Barrel, the delivery can be played on the Skeleton Barrel, it can be played high or in response to it when it drops, not to mention the cage for pulls. On the other side of it, lots of ways to catch the Miner here for Wings.
Yeah, these are 2 very, very interesting cheap decks here, and I'm excited to see how they fare against one another. Great job there.
So throwing the Miner to the opposite tower. Look at that, making that Knight take a long walk.
Yeah, and again, you know, Wings spending a lot on these defenses, but able to turn them into substantial counter pushes that make Sam have to spend just a little bit more elixir than he'd like, and not in turn be able to get as much offense created.
Magic Archer for Sam as the last piece of this Miner Skeleton Barrel deck. You see it doing some cleanup duty there for Sam on the right-hand side as we enter into double elixir. Things pretty close. A little more than 200 HP advantage for Wings.
So maybe a hair early there on that Royal Delivery, not able to clean up the Bats as well. So Bats going to get tanked for, or going to tank for those Spear Goblins, and a High Knight comes in, and that'll just happen on the right side of the board, even though Wings was trying to shift it a little bit to the other side.
That Magic Archer did so well there. A little protection there from the Bats, and then Magic Archer gets both the Knight and the Dart Goblin off. Stabs do come in a bit on the right-hand side, but Sam now taking the lead, 1407 to 1484 as we get closer to sudden.
Yeah, this is neck and neck. It's brilliant Magic Archer play here by Sam, which is going to be the deciding factor. It's going to be all about protecting his Magic Archer because there's no big spell in his opponent's hand, and of course making sure he keeps getting that Miner in varied spots on the tower.
The delivery's been doing some good cleanup duty at the bridge here for Wings, but struggling a little bit as we get deeper into this game.
Yeah, wondering if that those Bats were actually necessary because the Skeleton Barrel was already going to tank for that Inferno. Maybe felt like the Bats was a waste of 2 elixir there from Sam.
Skelly split way ahead of the Miner from Wings, cleans that up, so No connections there, and now a bit of a counter push, but do keep in mind that right now Sam has a pretty significant elixir advantage as we approach the final 90 seconds.
Yeah, not a blow has been landed in about the last 30 here, so Miner goes into the inside. This is going to get on top of tower, and now we see Knight plus Dark Goblin, probably going to see a barrel as well. No, we do not.
Delivery high, keeping it pretty well taken care of, and delivery opposite direction. Log not available there for Sam, or maybe deciding to use it for something else, so does take some damage.
And that delivery was just a second late crossing the river, not able to tank for the Goblins, but then because of that was able to get one stab in on the tower with his lance.
Oh, you see what Sam was going for there, trying to get some geometry and get those Magic Archer shots on the tower, but one tile off, does not get any damage. Still in the lead here against this Inferno tower for Wings.
Yeah, and a really, really nice pickup there by Wings. Knight to the back of the tower to pick up that Miner. Dark Goblin played too high too early. Magic Archer stays alive, cleans it off the board. A little bit of trouble here for Wings.
Final 34 seconds. Miner into the back again. Skeleton's way ahead. This time Log and Cycle for Sam. Sam is ahead here, 766 to 1185, 25 seconds left.
That gets on tower, couple bites in, and that does feel like that could be the ceiling factor here. Sam able to get that Miner on tower, Wings not able to get anything on tower, and that's been the big, big problem here.
These Miners are huge. 2 Magic Archers at the bridge right now. Is Log back and Cycle for Sam? So far, been some good outcycling by Wings. 888, final 3 seconds here. That's going to be it. OP Sam ties things up at 1-1. Great performance here by the German over Wings.
Yeah, that was a really, really fun back and forth to watch, and it was just all about Sam making sure he was always in control of his cycle. Yes, he took a lot of damage, but at one point it felt like, I think it was when you called out the damage, you were saying that the two of them were very similar. It was like 1407 to 14-something, and it was like a minute of gameplay went by, and Sam's tower did just not move in health, and those defenses time and time again basically made that Miner a massive deciding factor. Wings could just not get any damage through as we got further and further into more elixir.
Well, Wings did a very good job late in the game of starting to try to outcycle that Log and get some damage on tower, but it was too little too late. You saw him beat the Log and force out the spears or other responses against the Goblin Barrel a couple times, but by the time he started doing that, he just fallen a little bit too far behind against Sam.
Yeah, and one more thing here is we're looking at the screen provided by Stats Royale is that Magic Archer. The Magic Archer plays, the piercing, the geometry, or whether it was just providing DPS offensively and defensively, it was near impossible for Wings to get to. I mean, basically impossible. How are you going to get to it? You can't focus your Dark Goblin on it, and when he did, the one time when he tried to go very aggro to get the Dark Goblin on the Magic Archer, he played it too early. He threw away 3 elixir, and that Magic Archer stayed alive for a very, very long time. So a card that can be so easily controlled, but then also so devastating if you don't have spell power.
Yeah, I mean, you saw him having to drop deliveries at the bridge once it got within range, and that was really the only way he had to deal with it. Got some value here or there, but those placements on the Magic Archer on the outside didn't get the piercing all the way through the tower on that one Inferno. But even though it started getting the Inferno but not tower damage, it was getting both the Inferno and some of those really easily killed defensive troops being played overall on defense on that side. So Magic Archer, usually you see Miner Skeleton Barrel, Mega Knight is usually the big final piece to that deck, but this Magic Archer variation paying off really well for Sam in Game 2.
Yeah, and I love what you said there about the Royal Delivery being played up high time and time again, because it was really the best way to get on top of that Magic Archer. What Sam did once he realized that was he would start to stagger the troops coming across the bridge, like the Bats, like the Spear Goblins, so that delivery could only hit one group of units. It wasn't getting a lot of value. It was either cleaning up a Magic Archer or Bats or Goblins, never more than one, which was, again, a beautiful adjustment by Sam.
So here we go, game number 3. SK Gaming does have a set in hand already. Can Sam make it 2, or will Wings even things up? Let's go for our final game of the set. Sam has quietly kind of begun to really put himself back on the map as a head-to-head player, including a first-place finish on ladder in 2 seasons ago, not to mention winning the Red Bull MEO2, or getting to second place in Red Bull MEO2 for Germany. And a guy who's really focused on 2v2 for a while. It's nice to see him finally getting his head-to-head shine in Clash Royale.
Yeah, it was interesting when Sam did get to the top of ladder. I wasn't surprised but I was very surprised. Does that make sense? It wasn't because it was like, oh wow, Sam could do that. It was just that he actually took the time to do it in a season during what was probably practice time for CRL.
Yeah, I mean, that's always impressive when someone's like, I'm going to be great in CRL and also push ladder and go through the stress of trying to get number 1 there.
Sometimes you see that, and you're just like, they must have 30 hours in a day. I just don't get it.
So RG in both directions, very similar looks here, although it's going to be the Musketeer and Minions for Wings and some different spells, versus Sam going with probably the most popular Royal Giant deck in the game right now.
You know, one thing I will say about kind of missing this Royal Giant meta, and by the way, a beautiful RG, aggressive RG there played by Wings to get some more damage on the tower. I really miss those bridge battles with the Fishermen and the Skeletons and the Royal Giant. I love that little game of chess that happens every single time a Royal Giant is dropped.
Well, we'll get some very interesting bridge battles here, especially with the Fishermen being part of the mix as we go into double elixir time. Wings is ahead by a little over 600 HP in the left-hand lane. This will be curious, Andrew, as we go deeper into this one, because the closer we get to triple elixir and potential spell cycle range, the more the factor comes in that Sam is playing the faster deck. He's playing the bats instead of the minions, and how much of a factor might that play at the end? Well, not much if this Royal Giant takes that left-hand tower.
Yeah, we got it. I mean, I'm hoping it was around 50 seconds in the booth. A beautiful, beautiful offense put together by Wings there. He drops the Royal Giant in front of the Musketeer, and then he drops the Knight almost instantaneous to get pulled across the bridge by the Fisherman, tank for that Royal Giant, and tower down. And that's exactly what you expect out of this Misfits player.
And Sam chooses to go to the right-hand lane rather than the left. What will he do to stop the Fisherman? There's going to be no Fisherman pull. Will this RG be able to do enough? I don't know.
No.
Getting 1 shot, getting 2 shots. That's going to be a GG, well played. Wings gets the big win and evens things up for Misfits.
I mean, that is one of the most classic plays by a pro is, I'm going to do this same interaction a couple times, and I'm going to watch exactly how you defend it. If you defend it the same way twice, I'm going to do it a 3rd time, and I'm going to call your bluff. And that's exactly what happened. RG, first he baits out the fireball with the minions so that he can drop his Musketeer down. Now the Musketeer's going to stay on the board no matter what. Musketeer's about to cross the river. What does he do? Drop an RG Knight instantly, and GG, well played. Sorry, Sam, but Misfits, Wings had your number.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at these 2 decks here, talking about what Sam has to contend with. Those bats, he's running log, doesn't have a good answer for those minions, not a great answer, whereas Wings has the zap. And that zap goes bye-bye bats, bye-bye skellies whenever you want. So that's a ton of DPS, especially defensive DPS he can take out whenever he wants.
So here we go. This is the Musketeer that came down right after the fireball. Double drop with the Fisherman already on the board. Knight up front to tank for that Hunter and Fisherman. Fireball in. Oh yeah, you remember that Musketeer I was talking about? Take a look at that. She comes in, cleans up the Fisherman. RG gets a couple shots with assistance of that Heal Spirit. Oh yeah, and that Musketeer I was talking about? Remember her? She's still on the board.
Yeah, I mean, great deck selection here by Wings. A couple shifts from a deck that's very popular in the meta right now and making a couple little tweaks there, getting a really solid matchup, and then playing just one step ahead with it as well in that final sequence. And as you said, Andrew, he constructed all of that perfectly, and here we go. Now Misfits evens things up at 1-1, and it's a brand new match, essentially.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. 0-0, new scoreboard. Only 3 sets left, so we're technically back in a BO3 with 2 1v1s and a King of the Hill. Who's going to come out on top? When are we going to see Morton? Will he continue his reign of dominance in playoffs, or will someone on Misfits, maybe Air Surfer, be able to come out? Like I said, Air Surfer in his last 2 matches picked up 6 wins and 1 loss in head-to-head play. That's a very, very impressive thing to do for a guy that's been so hot and cold in previous seasons.
Yeah, I mean, Air Surfer has been phenomenal this season, and this is what we expected from him in a tournament that takes place in this format. And it's not just that it's online, it's also the kind of stuff he's been doing, the confidence building he's been doing, mixed with being in a really, really good environment for him.
Yeah.
You know, he's with friends on this team. Not to say that his former teammates weren't friends, but these are guys who are very, very close with him specifically. And I think that a big part of this Misfits success is the overall chemistry between these four players.
I couldn't agree with you more. We've seen it time and time again in professional sports where you put together a dream team roster and the chemistry is just not there. So here we go in our second 1v1 set. Javi 14, top of your screen for SK Gaming. Air Surfer, the man we were just speaking about, at the bottom.
Javi, lifetime win rate in head-to-head play of 62%. More games played than pretty much anybody. 58 wins overall in head-to-head competition here at CRL.
Yeah, him and LCOP kind of take those two titles in the East and the West, I believe.
So we have not seen a ton of emoting in the opening moments of these games so far. Maybe a little bit more at the end when someone wants to throw some shade. But Airser and Javi both having a little fun here to open things up.
So calling the good luck out, recognizing they're most likely playing something very, very similar here. Good luck in return from Air Surfer and a great match ahead of us.
And a nice fisherman from Air Surfer there to pull the Musketeer across into those two barbs and get her out of play.
And I like that cycle on the right-hand side. Full Elixir Bar, doesn't know what to do really, has to play one more card to get back to his bar putt. What does he do? Bar barrel on the right, gets 2 hits.
Aggressive GY Skeleton Dragons on the right-hand side. Baby Dragon, though, defending fairly well here. It does force the Mega Minion out to clean up those last few skellies.
Yeah, Baby Dragon, Mega Minion, and Skeletons all played in defense on that graveyard. Leaves him a few Elixir behind, but he does have that Barb Hut still on the board, which Javi does not.
Musketeer cycles left-hand lane for Javi one more time. We'll see how Air Surfer intends to get it out of play, and Fisherman cycle near the back of the tower this time.
Well, they're back, my friend. The Huts are back.
Yeah, they're certainly back, and you know it's very interesting to see them get into the mix. And those barbs spawned on death of the barb hut. That's a big part of why they're so valuable right now.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering if the idea is that the Fisherman is going to actually, your opponent's Fisherman is actually going to help you get a tank in front of your Musketeer even after your initial tank has died, right? Because your Musketeer is going to stay back and shoot. Those barbs coming across the river are going to get pulled by the Fisherman to maybe add a little bit more tankage.
Final 25 seconds of regulation time, and Air Surfer just setting up barb huts behind both towers for potential help on defense against the graveyards, but how does he win this bridge battle?
Yeah, these bridge battles have been really, really tough to win. RG out on the right side for Air Surfer finally comes down. Musketeer here going to help with those skeletons, but definitely a few shots to land.
That's a solid chunk of damage on the right-hand side, Andrew. 1454, and not that far behind the damage coming in on his left-hand lane.
Yeah, the patience there by Air Surfer to hold his 7th and 8th card for as long as he has. Finally gets that RG down.
Skelly's all he needs on the right-hand side for Air Surfer to take care of the Musketeer, playing defense against the graveyard. Javi now starting to put some pressure at the bridge. A nice Musketeer to open something up. Does he get one more tank in front of that Musketeer, or let her contend on her own?
Go Skeletons in the way. Barb Barrel going to get on top of the Muskie.
Javi cycling poison on the left-hand side. Air Surfer starting to get in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, only
final minute 20 coming.
Yeah, with 80 seconds remaining, about behind by 700 HP, feels like a tough spot for Air Surfer. However, that one RG push did all that damage on the right-hand side.
Muskie played high to the inside. Fisherman will get the Muskie away, so this is a big chance now for Air Surfer. Not going to be a graveyard push on the left-hand side. Does he double down? And yes, he does. RG to the right.
So Poison's going to come down, and a lot of defensive units dropped here at the river, going to stop 100% of that damage from the Royal Giant. But a bridge battle is to be won here on both sides of the map for Javi.
And there you go, Fisherman again, but the Barb Hut protecting that Musketeer this time around. Baby Dragon trying to help, but the delivery cleaning things up. 1454 right-hand side. Javi declaring good game. No way, in his opinion, for Air Surfer to come back in this one. Going to go ahead and put the pressure on the left-hand side.
So here we go. Fisherman up high. Actually going to get to the Musketeer again. Skeletons come down a second late, but with only 20 seconds remaining, Javi knows that his opponent has to play a Royal Giant and get on tower and completely stop the defensive elixir from Javi to drop that poison.
High barb hut here, cleans that one up. Javi firmly in control and plays a graveyard that will force out a response. No time to go the opposite direction. Javi 14 takes game number 1 of our set.
And I had a feeling that it was going to be the Lightning as the last card, not wanting to play that on Barb Huts, not going to clean it off the board and spending so much elixir. And that was just a matchup there for Air Surfer where he was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Had no way of truly breaking through. And then if he did ever overspend, Javi had done such a great job of piling up buildings and piling up those Barb Huts that there was always dual lane pressure. That was something that Air Surfer had to deal with for the entire 5 minutes, was dual lane pressure.
Game number 1 for Javi, so Misfits and SK Gaming splitting the first 2 sets. Javi giving a slight advantage to his squad here in game number 1. And Javi's sort of been up and down over the course of this season, had some good performances, some not as good performances, and it's been been kind of out of sorts in 1v1 in the 2020 campaign after being so phenomenal throughout 2019 and 2018.
Yeah, and yesterday was such a great example to show us that Javi still had absolutely everything that we expected out of him because, he went down early on. He didn't have a great matchup, but some of those defenses he played in those final moments, catching that many minors in a row in a game that he ended up losing, it was still one of those things where I know that if you and I were sitting next to each other, we would have looked at each other and been like, holy crap, is he going to do this again? Is he just going to give us another absolutely jaw-dropping, breathtaking series of sequences that put him in the W, and you're like, this is going to be a highlight for years? He didn't do it, but he showed us that he still has it, and that's something that I think is really important to hold on to for SK. He's not washed, he's just maybe not at the top of his game, but he's still Javi 14.
Yeah, and don't discount the contribution he made in 2v2 to help get his team into this position. So Javi with the advantage here in game number 1. We'll see what the overall squad for Misfits in terms of their analysis, and of course Trainer Dippets being a big part of that one, comes up with for their matchup in game number 2. Didn't get a good one here the first time out. We'll see if they come up with something better for Air Surfer in the second outing.
Yeah, Air Surfer looking to claim this victory over Javi 14, even things up in this third set. Let's go.
Here we go, game number 2, and that's Air Surfer's signature emote, by the way, the golden celebration pig.
I did not know that.
That's the one we've seen him spam like crazy. An easy high Mega Knight to say bye-bye to the Magic Archer.
So Magic Archer, Ice Golem, and Bats. Maybe seeing some Hogs.
Air Surfer just cycling that log on the left-hand side.
And
it's Hog. We have not seen much Hog Rider in head-to-head play.
Oh, and Javi goes with the Lightning on the left-hand side, and he says oops immediately, and that is going to be a pretty big oops. Lumberjack going to go right on through. Royal Giant going to get raged up. That is going to be a painful mistake for Javi to recover from.
Yeah, Log Mini P.E.K.K.A. will save the tower, but a ton of damage. And
wow,
look what we're looking at here, Andrew. From Air Surfer, we're seeing a sort of a variation on what was a very popular version of Royal Giant. Royal Giant, Lumberjack, Baby Dragon, Mega Minion. This used to run Furnace back in the day. And then on the other side of it, something you did not expect to see in competitive, Hog Lightning.
Yeah, a very interesting Hog Lightning deck here from Javi, and definitely not one I expected to see him play today. And, it's kind of a bummer that the beginning of it started off so rough with that misplayed Lightning, so we might not be able to see this deck's true power. But if anyone can turn things around, it's the man at the top of the screen.
So keep an eye on that combination of the Mini P.E.K.K.A. and Fisherman together. Not as many ground targets to pull and pop as you might like with this sort of combination, but might be using that to retarget Royal Giants and get them off the board.
So no Brawler in play. Fisherman going to have to be played to stop this Lumberjack, and now with the Fisherman out of cycle, you wonder if Air Surfer is going to take advantage of that on the right-hand side.
Air Surfer playing the cage a little bit early here, as opposed to waiting to pull the Hog Rider, and there is a cage positioning, by the way, if you don't know, where you can completely counter a Hog Rider with just a Goblin cage, but that Hog Rider has to be solo. You can't be playing it. It can't have support, or else it's not get the full counter most of the time.
Yeah, and that was one of the nice things about that little increase in damage from the Goblin Brawler, is that it was able to completely mitigate a Hog Rider.
There you go. So you see Air Surfer going for the idea cage right into that same lane, but there's the idea with the lightning, gets the brawler off. That's a big connection.
Hog gets hit. Fisherman is on the tower. Mini P.E.K.K.A being played up high here. Log comes in just in time, but RG still gets one big shot in. Air Surfer only having Log and Fireball, going to have to do a little bit more work.
465 to 877. Javi now maybe trying to outcycle, does get the Hog Rider down. Cage pulls all the way to the middle with Skellies to defend. Lightning trying to make room. Does the Hog get a hit? It does not. Fireball in, but Log cycle to the left, meaning that's not going to be available on the right-hand side for this spell cycle to finish. So Javi now with an opportunity, just loading up on the left-hand side, trying to find a way on tower. Mini P.E.K.K.A ahead. Can this Hog get the tower in time to beat out the spell cycle?
I think so. That Mini P.E.K.K.A was played very well. Fireball comes down. That Fireball coming down, just like the Log in the last sequence, allows Javi to have just a little bit more life. He's going to take a good amount of damage here. He's going to try to go back on offense as soon as humanly possible. There's the Log, now just waiting for the Fireball. Air Surfer should be getting there just in time.
Log trying to make enough room.
Fireball's in! Hog's in!
Enough? No, it's not!
Whew, there's that signature emote once again. Air Surfer squeezes on through. Javi's Hog Rider on his way, but just a little bit late, and that was some great decision-making by Air Surfer, knowing when to cycle the Log, when to play the Fireball defensively, and how to take Javi down in Game 2.
And Javi has got to be frustrated with how close that game was at the end, and the big mistake at the beginning. And here we go. We're going to go to a third and final one, and you got to imagine that Javi might have had that if it weren't for that early lightning.
That's a really good point you make. I don't know how I forgot about it already, but that lightning early on, the oops coming out, allowing that Royal Giant Lumberjack to get on through, having to play the Mini P.E.K.K.A kind of messed up his cycle for the entire rest of the game, because you saw what really worked at the end was getting that Mini P.E.K.K.A in front of the Hog Rider so that the Mini P.E.K.K.A could focus on the Goblin Cage. What would happen there was Air Surfer would play the skeletons in the way, a Log would come in, and it felt like Javi had kind of figured out, he'd cracked the code on how to break through. But Air Surfer had different plans for him.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the action from that last game. Air Surfer tying things up. And here we go, the final few moments, and you see Javi just trying to cycle as hard as he can and find some way to break through, but once that Log get there, it's a foot race that he just was not going to win.
Yeah, there's just no way to do it. That's that tough moment of when you find yourself in a position to take your opponent out of the game, but all of a sudden you're just a couple elixirs short. He needed to be able to create just a little bit more pressure or get that pressure down just a second earlier. Air Surfer knew exactly where he was. He goes, perfect. Log now, play 4 more cards, get that Fireball down because it was just played, and I've got this W easily.
You talk about a couple elixirs short. Well, Andrew, there's 6 elixirs spent right at the beginning that was ill-spent and opened up the door and made him spend more he didn't want to. So you talk about all those pieces. That ending starts at the very beginning of this game.
Yes, and that's a really great point you make. We've talked about pros before. We're talking about cascading mistakes. When you're playing against the best in the world and they know that you're at a massive elixir disadvantage, they're never going to let you gain it back. So let's see what happens here in Game 3. Hopefully Javi doesn't have any slippery fingers. I don't even know what to call it when you misplay a card anymore.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Just a brain moment, and is Javi just going right back to it here? Opens up Hog.
Yeah, maybe really liked what he had in that last game, and probably talking about the exact same things that you and I just did. If I didn't play that lightning, I would have won that.
So there you go, 1450 left-hand side, courtesy of the Log. Nice counter there from Air Surfer for the Hog Rider. Splits Archers in the back.
Archers, Goblin Cage, and Poison. Maybe going for Graveyard once again.
Certainly has that feeling. Bat split in the back for Javi.
And nice play there. Hog Rider turns that Archer around, keeps that Bat alive, allows it to help with this Inferno and Skellies. Doesn't get a lot out of it, but it is just a really nice small interaction for people to take note.
Magic Archer will stop most of the burn from that Inferno Dragon. Poison will get some value on Air Surfer's side. First minute and 15 away, and just a slight lead by Air Surfer, currently turned around by that Log.
Yep, just spell cycling here and there. Javi feeling out his opponent, already looking at the responses his opponent has. Going to have to be worried about those skeletons catching his Mini P.E.K.K.A, and of course has to deal with that Goblin Cage.
Air Surfer is a very talented ladder player, personal best of 84-87. But big calling card would be the initiation of the global tournament, where he got first place 3 times as being one of the best Expo players on the planet. And before they changed the matchmaking, putting up over 100 wins in the global tournament, I believe more than once.
Yeah, I remember looking at those numbers and I thought my game was broken. But nope, Air Surfer took advantage of that matchmaking and just put hundreds of wins under his belt in those first couple global tourneys.
So Bats to stop any extra burn from that Inferno Dragon, now counter, and high Goblin Cage to pull that Hog to the middle.
And Bats getting tanked for by the Hog. Archer retargets, 1 Bat Bite does come in, and 1 Hog swing as well. So Javi goes, I'm back to the deck for a reason, and it is really paying off right now.
Bats on defense, Snowball misses 1 Bat, and Magic Archer in the back against this Graveyard. So well defended here by Javi, who now has a decent amount on the board in the final 30 seconds of regulation and a nearly 1,000 HP lead in the right-hand lane.
You know, and that 1 Bat really earned his money. He cleaned up at least a handful of skeletons, ended up coming across the board, so it was a very, very slight misplay by Air Surfer, but those are the type of things you cannot do when playing against someone like Javi.
Graveyard into the right-hand lane, being tanked for by the Inferno Dragon. Magic Archer, though, does turn out to help, and Hog Rider cycle to the right. No great response. No, the cage does get down with the skeletons just in time for Air Surfer.
Magic Archer going to demand a response here as well.
And Javi just loading up. Should be back to the Hog here in just 1 moment. Goes Mini P.E.K.K.A in front of the Magic Archer. And look at this. This is going to be very difficult for Air Surfer to deal with.
That is trouble right there. Goblin Cage does come in time, but Mini P.E.K.K.A is still tanking for the Hog Rider. Hog Rider 100% healthy and will get a big swing in, and the Magic Archer needs to be dealt with.
Magic Archer down 1 more time for Javi, and he's just cycling very, very aggressively. Not playing much in the way of Fisherman right now. Knows the sequence he needs. Gets the Hog down. Snowball trying to push back a little bit. Log for a bit of chip here, and that Magic Archer, no, the high cage turns Magic Archer, but the Valkyrie lines it up. That's going to be 177 right-hand side. Javi calls a GG here with 1:10 left.
Yeah, that Magic Archer retargeting on the Valkyrie. The Ice Golem had the right idea, or excuse me, I believe, was it the Brawler? Something got in the way first, but the Magic Archer retargets on the Valkyrie, gets on tower. Javi calls GG, and here we go. A back-and-forth game. Technically, it's Misfits' turn now.
Yeah, we'll see if they can do it. It's going to be an interesting one because you got to know who's coming up next for SK Gaming. It's going to be Morton in that number 4 spot. And here you go, a big win for Javi Catorze. Back and forth this whole thing has been today. Wow. I mean, just everyone take a moment, sit down, catch your breath. We're not done yet. It has been a wild one so far.
So one interesting thing to point out, though, and we're going to talk about these replays in just a second, is what Morton's matchup is going to be. So first, let's look at the replay here of what Javi did to kind of really control this game from Air Surfer. You know, he plays the Hog Rider again, and this is what we're talking about. The high Goblin Cage, it pops, the retarget on the Valkyrie gets those piercing shots through, and at that moment, Javi knows there's basically no way he's going to sacrifice 1,600 HP before he gets at least a little bit more damage on that tower. Lightning comes in, GG, well played, going to set number 4, and now that we're in set number 4, we can talk about who Morton's opponent is going to be. It has to be Razor. You can't imagine they're going to put Dip in right now, but why don't you talk to me a little bit about Razor's head-to-head play this season, because I don't think it's been quite as stellar as what we've seen in the past.
Well, you know, I mean, in terms of Razor's head-to-head play, it's been none because he's been all in the 2v2. Unless I'm missing something here on my records, let me go ahead and take one more look on the computer.
No, I mean he hasn't had to do it. He's just zero. It's just 0% played, 0% win rate, 0% loss rate,
100% win rate.
Oh yeah, 100% win rate. There we
Razor.
go. That's the way to put it. He was in both the King of the Hill lineups as the second or third player, but Air Surfer and Wings always got it taken care of on the way. So this is actually going to be his debut this season. And his numbers in the past, we call him the King Killer for a reason. He earned that name over the last couple years.
Yeah, and I said this earlier before the season started, and I'm going to say it again right now. Win or lose this next set against Morton, in my opinion, Razor came into the season as the most underrated player in CRL. And some numbers to back that one up. Came into the season tied for second in total career game wins. Tied for second in King of the Hill sweeps at 4. Tied for third in career set wins. And, of course, one of the top 2v2 players, one of the top 2v2 players overall in the history of the game. So, you know, you look at Razor's overall resume, and this is a great player who has a big moment right now to establish himself, I think, from a public perception as being as elite as everybody knows he truly is.
Yeah, I like that you say public perception, because I think you and I and a handful of other commentators, top players, analysts all agree Razor is S tier, along with the man standing across from him, maybe S plus in Morten. Two guys that are 2v2 stars, but also head-to-head phenoms. Here we go. Everything on the line in this matchup. SK going up against Misfits.
Here we go, Miner to the right-hand side, caught fairly easily by the Hunter. And then Mort gets the Goblin Cage down as well. Razor responds in kind.
Yeah, and Razor doesn't really feel like a guy who, over the years, that pressure has been a deciding factor in his games. Yes, he's human. Yes, he feels pressure, but he isn't a guy that it feels like, in high-pressure situation, makes many mistakes.
No, and people kind of forget about some of those high-pressure situations he was put in his rookie season. Talk about those 4 career King of the Hill sweeps. Well, 2 of those came right at the front end of CRL NA, where he came out big for complexity and earned that nickname, the King Killer, getting massive sweeps to open things up.
This is a lot of Elixir down on the board here for Razor. Mega Knight and Fisherman on the other side of the board. Graveyard comes in.
Going to have to respond to this Musketeer in some way.
Yeah.
Miner goes to the outside. Cage will stop the Muskie from doing too much damage. So a pretty big spend, although that Brawler going backwards, not necessarily what Razor wanted. Musketeer connects, and that's a healthy Muskie and a ton of damage for Morten.
Yeah, one extra step by that Goblin Brawler made it so that sequence, actually, that interaction totally went in Morten's favor, and you can't imagine what the last card is in his deck. It's most likely going to be the Loon. So if you look at the responses here from Razor, the Hunter, the Snowball, and the Goblin Cage, it will be somewhat difficult for Morten to break through, but we've seen Morten win bad matchups in the past. We've seen Morten do the unthinkable in the past, including even just yesterday.
Well, I don't know if we'll get a chance to look at it on the back end, but it's interesting with that Brawler going backwards. I think that might have happened because, or might have given the Musketeer the angle on the tower because that Miner might have been played 1 tile low from the safe spot, which actually pulled the Brawler all the way out of range for the Musketeer to retarget on tower. Not entirely sure about that one. And an E-Wiz as well. So a big opening lead for Morten, but we'll see if he can maintain and add to it with this a lot of defense against balloons.
Yeah, and you know, Razor there you see having to still play that Snowball. So in spite of having all of the defensive responses, still having to overspend a little bit more than he'd like.
Hunter high against the balloon on the right-hand side. That'll be sufficient to stop this one. And you see Razor able to cycle this is nice for him, cycle the Fisherman behind King Tower, because he's not worried about pulling any troop in with that Fisherman.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, you talk about that Hunter, that's going to be his favorite way to interact with the balloon coming across the river, is that high Hunter for the positive trade and for the easy cleanup. And just like that, Razor is going to take game number 1 here off of Morten.
So a big opening error opens the door for Morten, or for Morten, and then Razor turns it back around, slams it shut, and takes game number 1 for himself and Misfits.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that one Brawler and maybe just a little bit of an overspend by Razor, it would have been a basically all Razor all-day game there against Morten. So Morten now, finally, he loses in the 2v2, he loses in the 1v1, showing that he's just a little bit human, just a little bit. But still, you got to take the set off of him.
Just a touch, and yeah, you look at all these different pieces between the Hunter and the E-Wiz, the Cage and the Snowball. Making room for balloons there is tough unless you're out cycling. And but you out cycle one, and the other one's there. So Morten not able to quite break through after those initial moments. Let's take a look at some of the action from that game.
Yeah, and one of the other things to focus on about that was that the high DPS card of the Musketeer is the only great response to that Mega Knight, right? It's going to be able to stay far enough away, get damage on top of it, and, you know, provide a counter push. Otherwise, though, it was very easy for Razor to preserve the health of that Mega Knight. So let's take a look here. It's going to be the Goblin Cage tower take in just a second. So here we are.
So Goblin Cage played high to pull the balloon in onto that side, and then take a look at the other side here, Andrew. A nice great graveyard push with that healthy Mega Knight tanking up high.
Yeah, so that, essentially this was, you just saw the beginning of the sequence and then how that sequence ended in the left-hand side. And so he did spend a decent amount on defense, but able to still have that Mega Knight on the board, and that's exactly what we were just talking about. That Mega Knight needed more single-target DPS. You needed basically the Musketeer and the Brawler on it every single time, and that's why we saw that interaction in a couple games ago, where when the Goblin Brawler cage popped, someone dropped an Ice Golem to tank for the Mega Knight so that the Goblin Brawler could get all that DPS on top of it. That Mega Knight was so devastating for Morten because he just could not take it off the board.
So here we go, game number 2, Razor with a chance to send us to King of the Hill in what's been a back-and-forth battle. Has to win one more against Morten, gets 2 shots here. Morten's one of the greats, but a win here for Razor would be one of those big signature wins that we talked about before. Very curious to see what sort of things Razor has cooked up. Now, we've talked a lot about Dippets as being one of the head analyst ideas for Misfits, but Razor's the anomaly on this team. Wings and Air Surfer work very closely with Dippets on their deck selection. Razor's one of those guys who's more independent in how he makes his choices for these big moments.
Yeah, he goes with his gut, and I'm really curious to see what he comes out with, because is this going to be another moment where we see Morten run some sort of minor wall breakers deck? Is it going to be something where we see him go more control as we did yesterday? That's something that where your analyst opinion really, really weighs heavy on your mind, but at the end of the day, it is up to the pro and what they want to walk out with. So here we go. Razor looking to close things out at a 2-0 over SK's Morten.
If I'm Razor, I go with some sort of triple spell in this situation. And you see Morten is running something with Skeleton Barrel, whether it's double bait, whether it's minor Skelly Barrel, who knows. But considering how much he's gone in this direction, I don't know if that's where Razor's going now, seeing the bats and the Ice Golem in the minor, but that would have been my take.
So here we go. Morten running, like you said, minor Skelly Barrel bait. Bottom of your screen, Razor showing 3 cards so far that should be able to contend pretty well with what his opponent has.
And here we go, Balloon opposite direction, so this might be the giant skeleton version of Minor Loon with that Fisherman in there. And the Fisherman does not quite pull the Inferno Tower aggro for that Balloon, so that whole push dies on the Vine.
Yeah, both these guys just kind of reset back of your map here.
Miner goes right into that Dark Goblin, making some room for the Hunter to try to get on tower, forces bats out.
And that's something that we saw yesterday from Morten. It is very, very difficult to distract him enough to not protect his highest DPS units. And that's something we saw yesterday happen time and time again, was the preservation of his Dark Goblin.
Reaching the midway point of regulation time, Morten had the lead until that snap. Just a little bit of an advantage for Razor in the left-hand lane. The high bats will stop most of that damage on the right-hand side.
Yeah, a little bit of Larry damage comes in, and Bat's still alive. Dark Goblin played in the perfect position at the perfect time to focus on the bats and then the miner, not the other way around.
Here we go, double elixir time, no one with a distinctive advantage. Razor setting up in the right-hand lane, Balloon behind the Ice Golem.
And this is going to be very interesting. You see that Skeleton Barrel being played on the left-hand side. The reason for that is because Morten wants to make sure that just a little bit is being demanded out of Razor. Maybe even it was going to be the snowball. Razor does the correct thing, holds it, allows that Balloon to get some death damage.
So you see the idea with the Fisherman here, Andrew, on that last sequence, the Fisherman and Bats both getting in and taking some of that Inferno Tower aggro. We'll see how many times Razor can pull that one off. Currently in the lead, 1758 to 1893. 20 seconds left till sudden death overtime.
This deck just cycles so insanely quickly. Probably going to see it high Ice Golem. There it is, high Ice Golem with the Royal Delivery. Miner goes to the back, and now probably going to have to snowball this Skelly Barrel.
With that, Morten back in the lead.
Yeah, Morten just chipping away. Both these guys living at full elixir until they sell out on pushes, making the defenses very, very easy and making breaking through very difficult.
And that's a nice block with the Skeleton Barrel from Morten there on those bats, making sure they do not keep taking for that Balloon and give a lot of damage. So defensive Skelly Barrel works brilliantly for the German.
And a snowball comes in just in the nick of time to keep that Dark Goblin off the tower as the second Fisherman was played just a little bit low. Really, really nice awareness there by Razor. Minor damage starting to add up on the top right-hand side of your screen.
And you see, again, the same idea with that defensive Skelly Barrel. So Morten just wants to make sure he does not get balloon connections or death damage on that right-hand side and try to chip away in the opposite lane if he can.
And there he goes. Swerve to the left lane. Bats up high. Going to catch the Inferno Tower aggro, as is the Ice Golem and the Fisherman. Minor goes to the back on top of the Dark Goblin. That is a great sequence by Razor. How is Morten going to stop this?
He's not. GG, well played. Razor figures out the math, gets it done. The King Killer adds one more head for his wall, 2-0s Morten, and sends this to King of the Hill.
What an excellent analysis of his opponent's best way to defend his cycle, his elixir, and he picks it apart piece by piece. You see the tank up front, the double tank up front for the balloon. The bats are behind it. Grab the aggro from the Inferno Tower. Minor goes in on top of that Dark Goblin. Fisherman tanking for the balloon. Good game, my friend. You defended very, very well for very long. But Razor, the King Killer, once again showing us why he earned that name.
And you look at this deck from Morten and you see one thing that ended up making stuff a big challenge, is that he didn't have any really, really good answer for those bats. The Skeleton Barrel ended up being his answer, but that's a -1 trade, and it's not always going to be viable. So there's so many different things he's trying to deal with to try to keep that Inferno Tower ready for the balloon. GG, well played. Razor put together some excellent sequences.
Well, yeah, and you're also now losing one of your best pressure cards in the Skeleton Barrel that just demands your opponent to use, in this case, his Snowball. So this is exactly what we're talking about. Bats into tank. Fisherman there, then the Ice Golem behind. The Ice Golem actually is the one that kills the tower, and then the balloon comes in with that Minor on the back end that had already taken out the Dark Goblin. That balloon is at 100% HP because it was tanked for by Bats, Fisherman, Ice Golem, Minor. At that point, there's no way to stop a balloon push.
And it kind of felt like it was a matter of time there as those negative trades kept on coming in for Morten, and Razor kept on putting that pressure on. And you saw he was just trying to figure out some way to deal with it. But you take off, again, like the other half of your offensive play in terms of playing defense, and not much you can do to stay in the game. So Razor, brilliant sequences there, a nice 2-0, and now here we are, another King of the Hill. That shows how good CRL West is right now. Let's take a moment to talk about this, because this playoffs, the parity amongst these teams. There has not been a team in this playoffs, especially where you look at this and go, well, they don't belong here.
Right.
We haven't seen it. What we've seen is greatness from top to bottom.
Yeah, 3 King of the Hills in a row. SK's back in this fifth and final set, and I'm very curious to see what the lineups are. And just one more time to remind you, our playoffs finals are next weekend, so make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Make sure your notifications are turned on. You don't want to miss it. It's just one match. That can happen like this if it's a 3-0 sweep. Hopefully it won't be, but I'm very, very excited for it. What do you think's going to happen here in this King of the Hill? Do you think we see Sam, or do you think we see Sergio? Because it feels like the other two are basically a guaranteed lock.
Yeah, I don't know how you bench Sam in this situation. I really don't know how you do it. He's playing great head-to-head overall in 2020. I just don't see putting Sam on the bench in favor of Sergio here, unless there's a matchup thing they're looking at where they go, Sergio's deck pool plays better against one or more of the players from Misfits than Sam's does.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I see you taking Sam out and putting Sergio in.
I actually really, really like that analysis. It does feel like they're not superstitious, or they don't lean into it enough of the idea that, like, Sam can't beat Wings. He's had trouble with him this season, but I can't imagine they've lost faith in Sam after just 2 appearances against the guy. I think it's exactly what you're talking about. If we see one or the other, it's going to be all about their deck pools and matchups for who they think they're going to see. Now, the one thing I feel like is going to be for certain is probably Morten closes things out for SK because he does so well in high-pressure situations. Otherwise, it's almost a coin toss all the way across the board.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we know the Misfits lineup, right? Yeah. We know it's going to be Wings, Air Surfer, and Razor, and we suspect it's that order as well, right? That's kind of what I think they'll come out with order-wise. I don't know for sure, but there's a lot of questions over on the SK side, so let's take a look at these rosters.
Wow, so perfect call on the left-hand side of your screen here. Wings, Air Surfer, and Raz are in that order for very many reasons. Wings likes to start off hot. Air Surfer is solid, but also likes to play play in lower pressure situations. And of course, Razzer there, the King Killer in the third and final spot. High pressure, high stakes, no problem. Other side of it, maybe this is exactly what you're talking about, Rich, with Sergio Ramos leading things off, Javi in the middle spot, and Morton closing things out.
Let's go ahead and jump into game number 1, King of the Hill. Win, you stay on. Lose, you go back to the bench. Sergio Ramos and Wings kicking things off.
Yeah, and, you know, King of the Hill, it's weird. And by Morton, so let's hope that one of their tour individuals or representatives can pick up a win today.
Wings comes into today 67% on King of the Hill with 5 King of the Hill sweeps in CRL play. Sergio Ramos and even at 59% with 2 sweeps over his career.
It's so crazy to think that that means that he was, you know, essentially 15-0 in King of the Hill against CRL pros. Like, you know, if you kind of look at it sporadically, it's just crazy to think. I'd be happy to take 1 game off of a pro.
Yeah, right? It's absolutely insane. So here we go. Sergio Ramos with the bar putt muskie, so feeling like it's going to be going in that graveyard direction.
Yep. Bottom of your screen, maybe Ram Rider. There it is.
In delivery, Skeletons in response. Do they give up a hit? And they do. Shout out Night Owl to your favorite win condition.
Yeah, Ram Rider just always a nuisance, and definitely a card that I think is so cool that it hasn't really been changed too much, and it's never really fallen or dominated at the meta. Fallen out of or dominated.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of it at one point, but it was never really a deck where you were like, oh, well, there's nothing to do about it. It was just there a whole bunch.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It was just there because there was that, of course, the Stinky Cheese Jack for a while it just felt like it was impossible to do anything about. And that is a great recognition of knowing what is in and out of cycle. Lumberjack, Ram Rider straight on through. Sergio Ramos takes a big, big hit.
Yeah, low bar putt here. And look, we've seen this before from this deck. We've seen it today with RF doing it, going, okay, I'm going to sacrifice some damage early, but I know that this deck performs well later in the game. So goes behind early, does Sergio Ramos. The question is, as we get deeper in, can he stack bar putts and make this a living nightmare for Wings?
Yeah, that's really what he needs to do. He needs to turn things around in the sense of getting that elixir advantage in his favor. And you know, leaking elixir is not a great way to do it. But, you know, this Lumberjack plus push that runs into these bar putts, it's going to be really interesting to see how these kind of fare as the time goes on to double and triple elixir.
Is that Ram Rider still going to connect? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Way. A beautiful heal spirit in conjunction with that rage, and I don't know how that happened.
I mean, that Ram Rider was stuck. You play a bar putt on a Ram Rider, and you have 2 bar putts down, a bunch of other barbs, maybe even a mystic spell to stop it. Who knows? But still, the Ram Rider, she just touches towers.
Yeah, and she got the charge up again, even to add just a little bit of insult to injury. And look at that lineup there. The Fireball pushes that Musketeer in range of the Knight. Who knows if that was planned or not, but it sure looked pretty.
Just trying to put some real heat on the opposite side is Sergio Ramos, but this Ram Rider is just maniacal in its surge towards that tower. Delivery high, trying to hold on here. Is there anything to stop this Ram Rider right now? She is raged up, going right through GG. Well played. Wings takes it with the Ram Rider.
Yeah, very, very nice Ram Rider plays, recognizing early on when his opponent was out of cycle with anything on the ground, not enough elixir, so he goes Lumberjack plus Ram Rider, gets right on through to the tower, and then the rest of the game, it was basically just taking advantage of Sergio's, not even misplays, but necessary responses that Wings was able to pick apart.
Just how do you play a bar putt and a Ram Rider still goes, no. You see this scrum that we're in? Like, that was like a rugby scrum that the bar putt just popped out to the outside, hit the winger, and went all the way for the try.
Yeah, and that Heal Spirit, again, a card that you and I love, that's another reason that Ram Rider connected. So let's actually take a look at some of that action from the last game here with Wings playing a very, very nice Ram Rider deck. And, you know, here, this is it, Rich. Let's talk about it.
This is it. I mean, you see so much there trying to hold on, just get it down. And look at this. There's a ton of barbs there. But the death of the Lumberjack drops the rage. The Heal Spirit keeps it alive. And the speed, the 5th gear, forget that. The 6th gear that Ram Rider hits when it's charging in, raged up, it's insanity.
Yeah.
It's pure insanity. And there you go. GG, well played. At that point, there was no coming back for Sergio
Yeah,
Ramos.
and he does it again right here. He's happy. He sees the Lumberjack's health down low. Perfect. Let me just drop this Ram Rider right in the thick of it. No elixir, no how, not even the royal delivery there to push it back and give you just a second more to breathe. The Ram Rider charges on through, and now Wings, who did very well in the 1v1 set, is in his comfort set, up 1-0.
And notice that you mentioned seeing the Lumberjack's health down low. Notice, for those of you playing Ram Rider with Lumberjack at home, that he wasn't just dropping Ram Rider Lumberjack together.
Right.
He was staggering those two, letting the Lumberjack get some work in, letting it get low, and then timing those Ram Rider dropstick advantage, full advantage of that rage. So very, very well played by Wings, and now up 1 for Misfits here against the defending Western champions.
Yeah, and the great thing about that staggered push is that it allows your opponents to make mistakes in their defense. Maybe they commit too much or the wrong sort of commitment to take out that Lumberjack. Then you send in the Ram Rider that's raged up, as we saw there, and it charges right on through. So now Javi, who took his set, going up against Wings, who took his in this second game at King of the Hill.
And here you go, the only other man in CRL West to have 5 total King of the Hill sweeps. The 2 best sweepers in the game, Javi Catorze and Wings.
So looking very, very defensive at the bottom of our screen.
Very, very defensive.
Very defensive.
We'll see what direction Wings is going with. Nope, so it's not going to be the Ice Bow or Ice Rock, depending on what you want to call it.
Goblin Barrel goes to the side, Bar Barrel there to meet, knows that NATO could be back in cycle, does not want to allow that King Tower activation to come in because that will give him a severe disadvantage as he moves through this game against Wings.
So this should be the same Graveyard deck that Morton clutched with in game number 5 King of the Hill yesterday for Wings. We'll see how he fares. Of course, he does have the Tornado, the Cage, and the Bar Barrel for defense. We'll see if Javi takes advantage of that Bar Barrel, with that slightly, with a smaller range than the Log. You can put some inside and outside barrels to get that 1 extra stab from a Goblin.
And there's that interaction we were talking about once again, that very, very high poison. Dark Goblin steps into it after cleaning up a few of those skeletons on the back end. A little bit of damage comes in for for Wings, and him and Javi are very, very close here, separated by 10 HP.
So you saw Javi go outside with the Goblin Barrel on that time. Wings read it perfectly and put the Bar Barrel on the outside as well. As things get a little bit more hectic in double and or triple elixir, look for Javi to be alternating inside and outside and hoping a mistake gives him 1 extra Goblin stab on occasion.
Yeah, and I'm also curious to see how much we'll see the lane changes between these two guys. How many times we'll see the Bar Barrel plus Graveyard in one lane, how many times we'll see the switch Skelly Barrel plus Goblin Barrel from Javi in the opposite.
And Javi sets up Inferno Tower on the right-hand side in response to the Knight, and then goes again Goblin Barrel to the outside. And a nice NATO there from Wings.
Yeah, NATO pulls everything back. Still takes a few hundred damage there to give Javi actually a pretty nice lead. Just a couple hundred HP, nothing big. Easy to make up with Graveyard.
Cage gets the pull on the Skeleton Barrel here. And a second Inferno Tower down from Javi.
Yeah, this is kind of that thing that we're talking about, not allowing your opponent to create a lot of dual lane pressure, making them play in the lane that you want them to. There's that high poison again on top of the Dark Goblin. Poison comes in late, gets it off the board, but those skeletons do get some decent damage in, and that baby dragon is splashing on the tower.
That's a huge baby dragon. Tons of tankage, and Javi now in a big hole playing bait against Graveyard.
Yeah, this feels basically impossible to come back from. Wings has been all over it with the barrels, been playing very well with the splash troops, and that was an excellently executed Graveyard.
Trying to pressure on the right-hand side is Javi Catorze, but what can he do? Knight goes across, has plenty to set the line up top, has to play some defense here. Log and Dark Goblin poison, though. We'll add a little bit more here for Wings.
Yeah, now just going to be this cycle game. Just got to get back around one more time. Poison will take it off the board. Javi calls it a good game, and just like that, we are back in the same situation we were in yesterday, Rich, with SK Gaming facing elimination and Morten in a spot to where he has to go 1, 2, 3 King of the Hill sweep to keep SK alive.
And Javi goes with the NATO damage, or Wings goes with the NATO damage to the right-hand side. Poison to finish it off. GG, well played. Wings now, one away from not just sweeping here, but being the overall sweep leader in King of the Hill for CRL West and putting his team into the finals.
Yeah, this is another massive moment for Morten. And I think the number one question in all of our minds is, can he do it again? Can he do what he did yesterday again? It seems impossible to expect a guy to win 6 King of the Hill games in 2 matches.
Who knows? Who knows? Only time will tell. It's Morten, though. You know, again, I said it yesterday in the same situation. If you're SK Gaming, who do you want here?
Yep.
Morten. That's it. That's it. He's the guy. And if he can do this here, yesterday after that match, I tweeted out, if there's a tier, we need to have a tier above S or above God tier, because that's where Morten is. If he does it again, we have to find another tier beyond that, because this is absolutely insane. But first he has to win 1, 2, 3 against an insanely difficult King of the Hill roster in Wings, Air Surfer, and Raptor.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the fact that Misfits is, I believe, the only squad that had to go to King of the Hill twice on their journey to make it to playoffs, and they won both of them. And Wings was the reason why they won both of them, picking up 4 wins in those 2 appearances. You know, this is a squad that has had, this is something that we said at the end of the regular season. They've had to use everyone in almost every match. They are a fully formed squad that works together perfectly, and this is them firing on all cylinders. You are happy if you're Misfits to go to this 5th set, because that means that you've done everything right along the way, and you haven't played perfect. You can almost never play perfect, but you're doing exactly what the Bad Bunnies have done all season.
Man, I am just so excited for this one. It's going to be pretty crazy to see what Morten can pull off here against Wings, who, again, is just so insanely good at King of the Hill. Let's jump into it. Game number 3. Does Morten have the magic one more time?
Yeah, and it just felt like a moment ago that Razor was playing for the life of Misfits in that 4th 1v1 set, and just like that, Morten back against the wall again.
Wings cycling Magic Archer to the left. Get some good poison value there from Morten. Maybe going back to Ram Rider again here.
Looking like it. Morten rocking the Firecracker. Fascinating.
Have not seen much of her since the slight reduction in range, but still does just the same amount of damage and can be very frustrating nonetheless.
Yeah, it is crazy how that reduction in knockback range was as effective as it was, but, you know, we talked about it, being able to kite so much elixir away. Look at that. RG comes down just in the nick of time, and both these guys selling out offensively.
Yeah, Ram Rider going to go into that Goblin Cage, but Cage Delivery going to be a very good combination here against the Ram Rider, and not to mention the drop from on high from that delivery for those Inferno Dragons. So
that was a
good choice here from Morten.
I was going to say, sorry, that was a brilliant Heal Spirit to come in and give a little bit more life to that Brawler. He backs it up with some bats. Wings stops it in its tracks, but I really liked what Morten was going for there.
2 really nasty tank killers here in Wings' hand, though. The Inferno Dragon and the Lumberjack can both totally melt the RG, so it's going to be a question of trying to time that RG well to not get trapped in space by the Ram Rider and then not get burned down by one of those 2.
Yeah, and let's talk about the layers of defense there for Wings. If he's able to get that Lumberjack up top and then the Ram Rider directly behind it, not only is his Ram Rider going to maybe get raged up, but it also slows that Royal Giant again. So a lot of great responses.
Oh.
Ooh, and that...
Morten misses the poison on the Magic Archer.
That hurts.
And here you go, Lumberjack in, Heal Spirit to pull, delivery, maybe Cage behind delivery, there you go. Nice, great sequence there from Morten to mitigate that damage.
Yeah, what a recovery, and somehow that Ram Rider does not get a shot in. The only thing that Morten suffers is just a little bit of piercing damage from that Magic Archer, and once again, that's why he's S+ tier, is those mistakes that he can recover from so gracefully.
That missed poison, though, has put him pretty significantly behind in Elixir, so going to be very difficult. Going to have to make a few positive trades to try to stay in this one from an Elixir perspective. And that's a good start here, but still behind when you can see how much Wings has on the board.
Yeah, very, very healthy units on the board. Now going to need to drop in those Skellies and something else. There we go, Skellies plus Royal Delivery.
You talk about getting the difficulty of getting to the Firecracker, but same thing for Morton, having trouble with that Magic Archer.
And again, the Royal Delivery just coming through clutch right there. For a moment, it felt like Morton was about to get overwhelmed, and then look at that. He offsets the Heal Spirit a little to the right, looking for the Barb Barrel.
That's a brilliant Heal Spirit, and now Morton's pretty much back in terms of Elixir with those couple of sequences. Brilliant play by the German. He and Wings are putting on a battle here.
Yeah, this is just perfect mechanics, both sides of the board. And a big testament to that is look at the damage. We're barely separated by 130 HP, but also the most damage that's been done is 600 on one side of the map.
And notice as soon as he sees the Inferno Dragon to the left-hand side, he goes Royal Giant to the right, but that's the nasty combination, right? So you see that even though Inferno Dragon out of cycle, Wings defends with the Ram Rider Lumberjack combo and doesn't even whiff a little bit of damage from that Royal Giant on the right-hand side.
And he gets offensive pressure, right? Like, that's just an incredible thing about this deck, and those cards used correctly together, is that you really get a strong counter push. And look at that.
Bandit dashes in.
Ram Rider takes.
And the Lumberjack goes right to tower.
Oh my gosh. Both sides of the map. Morton getting a little bit overwhelmed right now. Wings fighting for his life to close things out against SK. Oh, that's huge.
And the delivery. 670 left-hand side. Magic Archer gets a little more piercing damage here. RG has to tank on the defensive side of the board. Everything going right for Wings right now. A tough spot for Morton with his whole season on the line.
Morton going back on the offensive. That Barb Barrel comes in and cleans up almost everything. Heal Spirit just in time. 2 RGs down. Goblin Cage, you know, is in cycle. No, it's not!
No Elixir for the defense, and just like that, Wings, the king of the hill king, puts Misfits through to the finals.
I have no words. I have no words. He's 7-0 in King of the Hill on the season. You and I talked about how we sound like a broken record talking about him in King of the Hill. Well, guess what? You get a whole nother year of it because of this. This was incredible performance by Wings. And I gotta say, Ram Rider looks like it's back in competitive due to what we saw today.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. 5-1 on the day for Wings. Huge performance for him, who really just has not had the moments that he's wanted. Talk about moments, this is the one right here. Razor clutches up against Morton in set number 4, and then Wings makes it look easy in King of the Hill.
I mean, this is where it all starts. The kite here to have to deal with this first Ram Rider. So much comes down, and the Ram Rider still breaks on through. And then look at this. There's still so much to deal with, so he has to go RG on defense. Anytime you see that, your opponent playing their best offensive card as a defensive kite, you know you've done something right.
And you see Morton going back to a second Royal Giant here, and even though you're sitting there going like, why do you second Royal Giant there? Well, it's because look at the timer. Down to under 20 seconds, so if he plays a bunch of defense here, there's no way he can get enough damage on the offensive side to try to get back in. So what you might be looking at and going, why not play defense there? Not enough time. Morton did what he could and hoped he could get around, just couldn't get around in time. And there you have it. The 2 champions from last season, the defending Western champion, defending world champion, neither one in our finals, and now what we have is Spacestation Gaming with a team, the former Immortals players. There are 2 guys on there who have a chance at being the only 2-time champions here in the West, NAEU, however you want to call it. And on the other side, first-time finals appearance here for all these guys from Misfits.
Yeah, so, we'll see next weekend if experience reigns supreme or if the young Bucks are excited and ready to go here as their first appearance in the CRL West Finals. Obviously, we're going to get to when it is, but it's next weekend. It's Saturday, 10 a.m., same time it's always been. But this is huge, man. This is an unbelievable thing that you just said. SK and Liquid both eliminated in quarters and semifinals, and Wings doing exactly what you and I have sold him as for years, but he does it in the biggest moment in his career, period.
Well, also another thing to point out here, Andrew, is that let's first take a look at the playoff bracket, and we'll see Misfits moving on up. Another thing to point out here, though, Andrew, is coming into 2020, American Clash Royale was much maligned on the world stage.
Yeah.
People were kind of talking about how Americans weren't playing well, but then you have Team USA's performance in the no-tilt worlds, and then look at this. Between Misfits and Spacestation Gaming, 6 of the final 8 players for our championship are Americans. So, I don't want to be too biased here in terms of nationality, but for a region, for a part of the world that people were saying was completely washed in terms of Clash Royale and not competing internationally, look at what these players have done at this moment.
And it wasn't even about CRL West. It was specifically about players that lived in North America. So to see exactly what you're talking about, it is a really exciting thing for CR talent in the States to know, no, we're still here. We're still here. We're still dominant. And now we have CRL West with arguably the best players in the entire world. That's where we can be biased. CRL West over CRL East, I think, is where we can be a little bit biased. It's been incredible to see what Misfits has done this season. And really, with this squad, like you said, a bunch of kind of unsung heroes in their careers at CRL.
Yeah, I mean, such talent overall, top to bottom, and a great moment for these Misfits players to finally get the shine that you think they deserve. Wings has not been here, has not been in playoffs at this position in a long time. Great King of the Hill player. Air Surfer, of course, someone who everyone knows is great, but has never done it on this stage. And then Razzer, finally competing for a championship. I believe that he actually did compete for a championship complexity against Immortals in that first season, but those guys in Dip now up against a very talented Space Station gaming team. This is going to be a fascinating final next week.
Yeah, and what hasn't changed over all those seasons, where you can watch us right here on Esports. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on. We will be live next Saturday for our finals, 10 a.m. on the West, 1 p.m. on the East. Do not miss it. Get those set, and also follow us along on Twitter. Follow me at Andrew Guy. That is my good friend at Rich Slayton, of course, at Esports Royale EN if you want to follow along in English. I'm so curious to see what the poll is going to be between SSG and Misfits. I'm so excited for the match. Fantasy. There's only 2 squads to pick between. Who do you got to win? That's basically it. You might as well go. Maybe you want to do the 2v2s, or maybe you want to ride hard on just one squad. I don't know. I know you don't know. I can tell by the look on your face right now, but I do know you can win 1,000 gems if you end up on top.
It's going to be a whole lot of fun next weekend, Andrew, and we'll see this amazing 2v2 battle. Will it be AC and RF, the longest-standing 2v2 duo in the game, or will it be Razzer, who came into the season as the winningest player in 2v2, and who will come out on top? This is actually a battle of who's the top of 2v2 here for that first one, and then, of course, then you have the head-to-head stars, Lapo and Samuel, Air Surfer and Wings. This one's so hard to predict, so much talent on there. All I know is I'm going to be right here casting this one next Saturday.
I am so ready to go. I'm so happy that this is what we got for playoffs. Like you said, the competition, the competitiveness this year has been through the roof. It's definitely been the highest level of play we've ever seen at Clash Royale League. And you know what? I'm very, very happy to see SSG and Misfits in those spots. Someone who's been here before, someone that's never really been here before as a squad. Really excited. And one person that we did kind of sleep on in that was RF, who played very, very well. So we've got stellar 1v1s, stellar 2v2s, and a great finals for you in just 6 days.
Guys, it's been fun hanging out with you. Hope you enjoyed this playoff edition of Clash Royale League. We'll see you back here next Saturday. For Andrew Guy, I'm Rich Slayton. See you next weekend.